Okay, it's 7:02 and I'm calling the meeting of the San Leandro City Council to order. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, please do.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Aguilar,
Present.
Councilmember Azevedo,
Present.
Councilmember Baloo,
Present.
Councilmember Viveros Walton,
Present.
Vice Mayor Simon,
Present.
Councilmember Bowen is absent. Mayor Gonzalez,
Present.
thank you.
So as for our announcements, the City of San Leandro conducts orderly meetings to fulfill its mandate. Discriminatory statements or conduct that would potentially violate the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964 and/or the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, California Penal Code Sections 403 or 415 are per se disruptive to a meeting and will not be tolerated. Please see the City Council Handbook and City Council Meeting Rules of Decorum for more information. Madam Clerk, your announcement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. If you would like to make a public comment during the meeting, you can do so in person or via Zoom. If you are present at the meeting, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the city clerk before the item is presented. If you wish to participate in public comment via Zoom, you can use the raise your hand tool when the item is called. During the public comment session, speakers will be invited to speak and will have a set time to share their comments. A countdown timer will appear for their convenience, and when the time is up, the microphone will be muted. All raised hands outside of public comment will be lowered to avoid confusion. Once public comment is opened, hands may be raised to speak. There will be a 30-minute window for public comments, which will take place under item 7, public comments, as per the published agenda. After the time is up, the council will proceed with the rest of the meeting's agenda. If you have not had the opportunity to speak during the initial 30-minute period, there will be another chance to do so after item 12, city council reports. Thank you.
And one little bit of emphasis on that comment, because I think there was a little bit of confusion for some of our new attendees. On our published agenda, you're able to comment on items. So maybe item 5 would be consent. You can comment on the consent. Item 10, you can comment on 10. But then there's also a section called general public comment. And that public comment is for things that are not on the agenda. So please reserve that time for things that are not on our agenda. But let's move to the fun stuff. Closed session, do we have anything to report out? Because we didn't have a closed session, we have nothing to report out. Item number 4, recognitions. And I think this is what brings many of you here today. So let's start with recognitions of support from corporate and community partners for free downtown San Leandro special events. I'm going to come down there and recognize a few folks. We all like the word free, right? We like the word free. We like to have community events where we can all gather for free. But the truth of the matter is nothing is free. And so we rely on partnerships to help make those free events happen. And that's why tonight we're celebrating some of our community partners, those that have made donations at a larger level, because it's a lot easier to get things done with donations that have 4 zeros than it is for donations that have 1 zero. And so we're particularly grateful for a number of organizations, and in particular, the public-private partnership. I would also like to say that the number of people attending events continues to grow in San Leandro. And the feedback that we get is ever so positive about the vibrancy and the energy of the programs. Particularly grateful for the Downtown Benefit Association, for SLEA, in particular, for coming together and bringing many, many events, coming up with creative ideas. We've seen 3,500 people at some events. At Oktoberfest, how many did we have? 7,000, was it? Was that 3,500 at Oktoberfest. We are expecting about 7,000 at It's a Wonderful Night. We had 20,000 people by our estimates at the Cherry Festival. That's a lot of people, a lot of service, a lot of connection to the community. And so I want to recognize some organizations and some businesses that have supported that effort. The first organization is the Optimist Club. They bring a positive attitude. They were by far the largest sponsor of our events. And so I want to say thank you to the Optimist Club for all that you guys do across multiple events, not just this type of support. So Morgan wants to take a picture now.
Yeah, I just want to say a few words. We've been around for 80 years. That's 80. And during that time, we've contributed to the community. And so we always ask when we're at these events, if there's anybody who needs support for their nonprofit, or their Girl Scout troops or Boy Scout troops, any organization that is out there doing good and needs funds, come to us. We have given, we don't know exactly how much we've given over 80 years, but we know over the last 30 years, we've given a little bit over $3 million. And so, and we hope to continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to also call up Waste Management, Inc. Come on down. So these next three organizations also are part of the, we've got, how many zeros is that? 4 zeros? So we really appreciate, these are the types of donations that make this a lot easier. So step on in. Let Morgan take her picture. Ah, you can be holding the certificate. There we go. There we go. And then who would like to say a few words?
I just want to say that Waste Management's thrilled to support San Leandro, and I'm also a San Leandro resident for over 20 years, so it makes me really happy when something, my personal life and my work life can overlap and just really support this amazing community. So thank you very much.
Okay, our next organization, Ava Community Energy. Where are you, Juan? So for those of you that don't know, Ava Community Energy offers an alternative to Pacific Gas and Electric. We have many San Leandro residents who avail themselves of the energy services provided by Ava Community Energy. You've been a good partner in a variety of places in the East Bay, and particularly here in San Leandro. We've seen you at multiple events. But would you like to say a few words?
Of course. Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Yeah, we're Ava Community Energy, the default energy providers of Alameda County. And we have saved customers millions and millions of dollars a year through our Pride Choice service option. And we have a goal of by 2030 to provide 100% carbon-free energy for all of our customers. And we're on track to making that happen. And if you want to learn more, go to ava.org, avaenergy.org.
Okay, ACI, Alameda County Industries, come on down. And for those of you that don't know, for I guess about half of San Leandro, you take care of our refuse and our recycling and bringing innovative technologies. So I'll pass the mic to you to strut your stuff.
Photo
Oh,
first.
photo first.
Thank you, Mayor. We certainly appreciate the award given us tonight. It's nice to be here, not asking for something, but being thanked instead. So we really appreciate that. Many of you know we have extended our contract in San Leandro, so we look forward to continue supporting the great work of the city, the chamber, the organizations, downtown associations, and so forth. So we look forward to spending more money as the years go by in the community and helping to provide these free, almost free events. Thank you.
Okay. Where's Kaiser? It's Joe, right? Joe. Come on down. So I don't want you guys to put Joe on the spot because he's new to this role. And so everyone's watching. So let's go ahead and take this picture. So what people may not realize is that Kaiser is, I think, currently the biggest employer in the city of San Leandro. I think they surpassed the San Leandro Unified School District. So we're very grateful for what you do in terms of keeping folks in the city employed, but also for the giving back that you've done. We recently celebrated, I think, your 10th year anniversary. If I remember it, here in the city. You've got a farmer's market and lots of wonderful things that happen there, but let me not steal all your thunder.
Well, I mean, Mayor Gonzalez did a great job of giving my remarks here. I really appreciate all of that. But really appreciate being here tonight. And Kaiser Permanente is thrilled to receive this and just very proud to be a partner with the city of San Leandro and the Downtown Benefit District. And very, very appreciative of this recognition. Thank you.
Okay, is it Claudia or Janet? Claudia, come on down. So we've got Prologis, who's also one of our supporters. So much. All the way up here for this event. It's awesome. Well, let's take this picture. So for those of you that don't know, one of the largest real estate holding entities in our city, providing many services to the businesses here in San Leandro, giving people space and cutting edge space. But I'm not going to steal the thunder on the cutting edge space that you are building.
Yeah, we are very proud. We have like 3 developments right now in the city, and so we continue to modernize the face of the industrial area in San Leandro. We really very much appreciate the partnership with the city and also with the community. We own and operate several buildings in the long term. So we do have a long-term commitment to this community, to the city, and we appreciate every opportunity that we have to show the partnership and show the appreciation. So thank you for this recognition, but thank you for the opportunity to be part of the events and everything that the city organizes.
We also have in San Leandro someone that was not able to attend, and this is the Reyes Coca-Cola bottling plant, because we know that they have been incredibly generous in providing particularly product to the city. They provided funds for this these events, but they have many times shared free product with nonprofit organizations to make events successful. So we're particularly grateful for the Reyes Coca-Cola bottling plant. So at this point in time, we're going to move to the district awards, if I remember correctly, and we will start with district number 1, Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Buenas noches, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to ask Olga Rosales Salinas to join me up here. Let's give her a round of applause before we even know all the things she's done. So it's my honor to celebrate you and the work that you do on behalf of our community. She does so much that even the mayor of Hayward came to celebrate her. Where'd he go? Ahí está, over there. The impact that Olga has had is felt not just in San Leandro, but with young people in the Bay Area. I chose Olga because Olga represents a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit that exists in the Latino community. Olga's background is incredibly inspiring. It is gritty, and I love it. Olga and her sister started a scholarship for immigrant first-gen students entering higher education. And in for those of us that work in higher education, the landscape that we're looking at next year, scholarships like the one that Olga and her sisters give will become even more important for students who are not able or can't access financial aid due to their status. So Olga, thank you so much for your work on that. She's also a poet and an artist and a recovering radio host that I learned today. Olga, it is my honor to have you here tonight and let the community know about the amazing person that you are. And here is your award for 2024 District Leadership. Felicidades. Yeah. Wait. And I'd like to bring my colleague Brian Azevedo out, Councilmember Brian Azevedo.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? I would like to invite Zhang Jingxiao up here. Come on up. And I'm having a translator come up here too. Lisa Lau, she's gonna be translating for me. Here's your award. I'm delighted to present Zhang Jichao with the Leadership Award for District 2, recognizing his outstanding contributions to our community. While language may separate us, Zhang speaks Mandarin and Cantonese, and I speak English. Our shared commitment to our community service and compassion has brought us together.
話好感激你今晚嚟到。佢話即係 even though 你講國語同埋 Cantonese 咧佢講英文但係你哋都揾到一個同樣嘅語言。好多謝你對社會咁多貢獻。
Zhang's dedication to volunteering has had a profound impact with various institutions in our city, including San Leandro High School, Bethel Presbyterian Church, Impact Church, where he's played a vital role in food distribution efforts.
佢話好感激你同啲老人家派食物，同埋為個 church 做到好多嘢，同埋好多謝你為嘅國家學校做好多嘢。
I extend my sincerest gratitude to Zhang, and I'm grateful for all his values to our community and always out there and helping people. Even though he doesn't speak English, he's always out there, and 37% of San Leandro is Asian. So he really out there representing the community and representing everybody. He helps everybody. Would you like to say a few words?
He does have a speech prepared. It's about a minute long. He's a little shy right now. Can we get him to, you guys want him to say a speech? Yeah.
好多謝大家，我都覺得受寵若驚因為呢個新移民又唔識英文咁，即係嚟到嗰度咁得到覺得一個殊榮嚟嘅。咁特別咧，我特別感動咧，我哋教會好多我啲教友，呢啲全部係我啲教友嚟嘅。咁咧佢哋過嚟支持我非常之感謝大家。Okay.
Okay, so I'll say it in English then. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am honored to be here tonight to accept this award. I want to express my gratitude to all of you for your unwavering support. I moved to the United States 5.5 years ago. Although I do not speak or read English, I have actively immersed myself in various community engagements to better acclimate myself within American culture. I want to thank all the friends from church and the Elderly Activity Center who came to support me tonight. Thank you. Serving on these committees not only allowed me to support my own family's journey in a new home, but also help serve as a bridge for other families navigating similar situations and challenges. Through these various community experiences, it really highlights the beauty of cultural exchange for me and the strength of community bonds. I've witnessed firsthand and encountered the kindness, tolerance, and integrity that define the American spirit. I want to thank City Council Member Brian Azevedo for this recognition tonight and giving me the opportunity and platform to share my story. It's been a pleasure working alongside Brian, assisting those in need, and his dedication to serving the people continues to inspire me every day. Congratulations also on your reelection. I know it was a hard-earned win. Thank you, City of San Leandro and Brian Azevedo, for your continued service and your daily efforts to build a stronger San Leandro. I hope everyone have a wonderful evening and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to invite my colleague, Councilmember Aguilar Jr.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Kelly. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Victor Aguilar, council member for District 3, the first openly gay council member on this council. I wanted to recognize Rosa Velasquez. Please come up. Let me rephrase it. That's Commissioner Rosa Velasquez. She serves on the Library Arts and Cultural Commission and is my appointee. And when we were discussing her joining the commission, she was afraid of what to do and what to expect. And I said, you're going to do a great job. You are what this commission needs. And so there's a quote by Marissa Mayer that exemplifies you. And I'd like to read that. It says, "I always did something I was so little, not ready to do. I think that's how you grow when there's that moment of, wow, I'm not really sure I can do this. And you push through those moments, and that's when you have a breakthrough. And you are an amazing person. You are doing a lot of great things in our community. Rosa has a whole family. She actually went to pursue her bachelor's degree and did that while working a full-time job and being a full-time mom. She also was awarded the scholarship from the Chicana Latina Foundation. And she also is my commissioner for the Library Arts Commission, and she looks forward to contributing to this community. But she also is a parent liaison for a cultural writing program for middle-aged schoolgirls here in San Leandro. And she is also a part of the parent and teacher committee here in San Leandro. And Rosa has done a lot of amazing work, and she is somebody who is, I think, deserved this District 3 Leadership Award. Thank you so much for all your work.
We do the picture.
Oh, here we go.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone here tonight, especially you, Councilmember Aguilar. Thank you for this recognition. My ultimate goal is just to positively impact my community, our youth, especially as a mother, and to give back as much as I can in my community service. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. Congratulations. I'd like to call up my council colleague, Vice Mayor Fred Simon.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce Karen Klein, if you would please come up. Karen is our commissioner on our Parks and Rec Department, and I'm very happy to provide Karen with this leadership award tonight. Just a little bit background about Karen, how I met her. Before I was on council, I met Karen on a Zoom meeting in the Manor. And the Manor, unfortunately, had the theme, the Manor gets no love. And Karen, of course, and a lot of our Manor folks here today don't support that concept, and we want the Manor to have love. And Karen was a big push, big supporter for that. And I was on a Zoom meeting with Karen, and it was about, I think, a development going in replacement of our bowling alley. And of course, we had a lot of heartburn over that. But Karen was very strong in supporting the community concerns in a professional, strong and caring way. And I was very impressed. I was just a resident as well. And I said, wow, you're good. And I ran for council and said, we got to find a place for Karen. And she's on the Park and Recs Commission, doing an awesome job there, and helped bring in a pickleball courts along with Joseph Mui together. And everyone loves the pickleball courts at the Manor Park. And another huge accomplishment Karen has done is she was the chair for our Manor Day in the Park. And she's worked alongside with many of our other Manor residents here too. Bridget, I see in the background, and several others. But that was an incredible day in the park. This is an activity the Manor HOA had many, many years ago, and it stopped, I think, in the 80s, perhaps. And then the HOA brought it back again. And it was, I think, about 1,000 people came out. And this was all run and led by the Manor HOA with Karen as our chair. And it was just a beautiful event, and want to recognize you for that as well. So thank you. And if you'd like to say a few words, okay? But great job, Karen.
Thank you.
I'd like to hand it to our Councilmember Pete Ballou.
Wow, thunderous applause for the councilman. Let's actually, if you don't mind, let's do a round of applause for all of my colleagues and the mayor for putting on tonight. And also to staff who does all the work behind the scenes to help us honor people, particularly Kelly Clancy, our city clerk, and her staff. They really work hard. They have to sometimes send us some reminders to get our people in. I'd like to call up, with your permission, I'd like to call up Bella Camello, who's my Distinguished Leadership Award winner for this year. This is an amazing woman. I'm only going to tell you the short part of it. She's amazing. I think those of you that know her already know it. She is a committed community member and longtime senior commission member. In her early days, she worked for an atomic research center in Mumbai. She has a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in literature, and she taught middle school. If that's not heroic enough, teaching middle school. She migrated to the USA in 1983, moved to San Leandro in 1989, and she's worked for the Oakland Unified School District for 24 years before retiring as a confidential manager. She was married to her husband, Ernesto, may he rest in peace, for 59 years and raised 4 children who have college degrees and are leading successful lives. In fact, one of them is a city manager in a town in California. In terms of community service, Bella has served on the SEIU Local 790 board for 15 years, worked on raising the minimum wage to $15 in San Leandro ahead of the state of California. She serves on the Ethnic Pastoral Centers for the Diocese of Oakland for the past 22 years. She helped in getting the Centers for Elders Independence to locate in San Leandro. That's the place down there on Fairway. She helped obtain a grant for disaster preparedness, worked to improve rideshare access and improve transportation infrastructure for senior citizens in our region. She got a grant for distributing 10 cherry trees in the Mulford Garden area to represent San Leandro as the Cherry City. She received, I know, I asked her, what do you do in your free time? She received District Leadership Award in 2013 from former council member Jim Prola, and she received the Social Justice Warrior Award from Rob Bonta in 2017. She has served on the San Leandro Senior Commission for 15 years. If I were to say she served tirelessly on that commission, that would be an understatement. Not to bad rap the other members, but she is capable and sometimes runs circles around me, so I'm sure she gets them going in full speed. Several years ago, Bella introduced bringing the age-friendly initiative to the city of San Leandro, and she continues her work in that area. Most recently, Bella is always got a project. Most recently, Bella is advocating to bring a detox facility to San Leandro for those in need. What an amazing woman. Bella, congratulations. You want to say a few words? You want me to hold on to this one?
First of all, I want to thank Council Member Pete Ballou for this award. He has always been supporting me and giving me good advice. He has supported some of my goals for the community, like the age-friendly initiative. I also want to thank my family for being here. My late husband, Ernest, will be smiling from above because he was always happy when I received any award. Lastly, I want to thank the mayor, the city council, and my members of the senior commission who have always been supporting me. For this, thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Picture here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bella.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I think next we turn it back over to Mayor Juan Gonzalez.
Okay, so now we will cover District 5. Sua Bowen was not able to be here today. So I'd like Gunnar Hissam to come up. Where are you? There you are. Come on, more than that. All right. This. So one thing that you'll see in all of the people that we brought up is that leadership, not sitting around saying somebody should, but actually being a leader and incorporating others, guiding others, encouraging others, and being there when it's late at night and you're tired and you don't think you have any more to give, and yet you send another email, you make another phone call, you make another ask from a friend to help you out. And so whether it's the Rotary up at your neighborhood where he's been working really hard with his neighbors to decrease the number of accidents that occur because of the way that the roads were laid out back in the 1950s when traffic was much less than it is today. Whether it's working with the school district on the Floresta Little League and making sure that there's facilities that are suitable for young folks and for the parents that are looking to support young folks. Gunnar's there with persistence. And what I like is always politeness. You're persistent, but you're polite. And that energy, right? To be able to persistently be there and to ask and to ask and to not go away, but never make it about being mean. And through that, he's able to get things done in the city of San Leandro. So for the leadership that you've shown, thank you.
Thanks, Lon. Thank you, everyone. I really, I'm just a dad. I got nominated to do this Floresta Baseball League, and I'm just doing my thing. And my priorities are the youth of our city and the safety of our folks in the city. And I got a great team of folks all around me, be it the Resilience Hub over on Lewis or Floresta or the PTA at Roosevelt Elementary, and just friends, and we know that there's strength in numbers, and we know that we're not alone here. And I just want to say thank you to Yuan and to Sua, who's not here. I hope she's having a good time. But thank you, everyone. This is an honor. I appreciate it very much.
And if you ever want to find out what a block party really looks like, ask Gunnar. Okay, so we heard a little bit about the Washington Manor Picnic Community Day. I got to tell you, that was an amazing event. When I ran for public office, one of the first things that I did was ask for a list of all the homeowner associations, because I wanted to go and speak and connect with residents in the city. And I was shocked by the number of homeowner associations that were defunct, that they just weren't vibrant anymore. The people had moved on, had passed away. But one of those associations has shown tremendous vibrancy in the last few years. And to be able to pull off an event as big as the Washington Manor Picnic is nothing but spectacular. So come on down, Washington Homeowners Association, wherever you are. Bridget and company. Come on down, come on down. I mean, I think it's so powerful about this. Has anybody heard the word free? Another event where the community was brought together for free. An event where she and he and many others found volunteers and found vendors to come and spend time and also provide information about how to have sustainable activities for families. So family oriented, and I was just blown away. To this day, when people ask me, what does community involvement look like? I point to this crew and what they were able to pull off, because it's not easy to do that sort of event. And I still remember you saying to me, I don't know how many people are coming tomorrow. And the fear, right? The fear of planning a free event for who knows how many people, but having the courage to overcome that fear and create a fantastic event is something that should be cherished.
On behalf of the Washington Manor Homeowners Association, which is an organization that empowers and educates our residents, really on the key issues that affect our homeowners and residents in general. So it's not just your typical homeowners association, it's anyone who lives in the Washington Manor area. So it's a nonprofit organization, educating and empowering, really inspiring people to give back to their community. And we partner with the mayor and city manager, as well as city council, to really make sure that we listen to the residents of the community and then bring those issues and educate and bring other commissioners or other educators to our monthly meetings. So you will be seeing more of us. We have an annual party coming up to really get our community together once again. This will be our second annual, and you are always invited to the annual day in the park at the Washington Manor Park. Thank you. All right, this is exclusive to you guys because we're keeping this kind of closed. But the Washington Manor, the association, what we're doing is, again, it's our second annual. This is a holiday party, but it's a potluck. So you have to bring your favorite dish, but we have thousands of dollars of donations for raffles, as well as we have games, we have crafts for the kids. We have a Santa coming as well. We even have Bumblebee Transformer coming and donating his time, a DJ. There's going to be dancing from 9:00 p.m. on. It's going to be an amazing event. So please stop by this Saturday, December 7th at 6:30 is when the doors open at the Marina Community Center on Wicks Boulevard. We would love to. And can I say one more thing? And Fred Simon is going to be recognized for all of his hard work for this organization that we are very, very, yes, please. He shows to every monthly meeting. He's amazing. He advocates for us. He goes to bat for us. We have a lot of issues that are affecting our community, and we need someone who's going to advocate, inspire, and just be vocal.
Okay, so we'll move to the next item on our agenda. And by the way, the last thing that Bridget said, I think is very powerful, because sometimes I think the word homeowners association can be very exclusive. It can separate out people that are renters, but they've been very conscious about making sure that everybody in the neighborhood is included. So thank you for reminding me, Bridget. Let's talk a little bit about our Mayor's Awards of Excellence. And in particular, we're focused on business excellence is demonstrated at multiple levels, and it's broken down by small business, medium business, large business, and then an entrepreneurial award overall. So for small business, we have Ricardo Guerra, right? from La Bombonera. Are you here, Ricardo? Where are you? Ahí estás. Vengan corriendo. I was at their ribbon cutting. It's an awesome location. Awesome, awesome location. Come on, Ever. So I'm going to read a little bit about the business. If you have not been there, I would strongly encourage you to avail yourself of their services. They're at the corner of East 14th and 143rd. Is that right? It's a beautiful indoor soccer facility. So, you know, people, again, people talk about someone should. Well, guess what? They did. They're making it happen. So it creates an incredible opportunity for young people and older people, for amateurs and semi-pros to move in the fast-paced world of indoor soccer. And it's such a welcoming facility, and they're welcoming individuals. Everyone is made to feel comfortable there. They have team competitions, the team events. They hold birthday parties, if I remember correctly. There's so many things that are happening at this new facility. And it was wonderful because the San Jose earthquake, were very conscious in selecting this specific location as one of the ones that they would support. So we're proud to have that kind of support here in the city of San Leandro.
Muchas gracias. Buenas noches a todos. Thank you. I mean, he pretty much said it all. Which is very, very, very blessed, you know, to be here in San Leandro, in the center of San Leandro, you know. So it's a safe space. It's a safe space where kids come, families, we gather together, we play soccer. We have professional coaches as well. It's my business partner, Adrian Garcia. We both collaborated together to make this happen. And I just want to say one more thing. It's very inspirational, you know, to see these spaces, you know, honoring all the hard work that people have been putting into. I was sitting down and I'm like, oh my God, you know, like maybe in 5 years, you know, that can be me, right? Or maybe in 2, right? So yeah, it's very, very inspirational. Everyone's invited as well. We're gonna have a posada. Raise your hand if you like Mexican food. You know, pozole, tamal. Oh my God, this is you guys are invited to December 18 from 5 to 9. We're gonna have, you know, piñatas, ponche, something warm, you know, to celebrate our community. Thank you for being there in our opening. It was very meaningful, you know, even though the parking lot was impacted because there was lots of people, you know, you were still able to come with us. So everyone's invited. We're looking forward, you know, to continue to grow, provide these safe spaces for our community. Gracias. Yes.
Okay, do we have air protein here? Dr. Kriparao, come on down. There you go. I like that energy. So Dr. Rao is here representing Air Protein. It's an amazing company that uses captured carbon through processes to create protein. The ultimate objective is creating sustainable protein that reduces the impact on the environment. And to have an innovative company like this in San Leandro brings me significant joy. So I do want to thank you and the CEO, whose name I can't remember, Lisa, an MIT grad, if I remember correctly. So maybe I'm a little biased, but they're doing wonderful work here in San Leandro. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing the innovation in science that is happening right here in San Leandro. We are certainly very inspired by everybody who came before us here. We are very recent entrants here into San Leandro. We moved in a couple of years ago, but we were warmly welcomed by the city, given all the resources we needed to build up our facility, which we call the Air Farm. And it's right here in San Leandro. And we take elements of the air, carbon dioxide, which you all breathe out, and make protein and other products from it. So there's a lot of innovation that is happening to make and take that CO2 from the air and convert it into protein using our proprietary process called air fermentation. And this was a process that was developed originally by NASA in the 1970s when they were trying to see how best to feed astronauts on long space journeys. When these astronauts would breathe out CO2, taking that CO2 and converting that into food. That was what NASA was developing in the 70s. And that kind of faded away as space travel grew less attractive and people started focusing on problems on the Earth, one of which is increasing carbon dioxide. So when Dr. Dyson, Lisa, and Dr. John Reed identified this technology, they decided to work on it. And then Air Protein was born as a result of over a decade of innovation. And when we were looking for a space to grow, San Leandro was the one that appealed the most to us. And we're really happy to be in this partnership with the city of San Leandro. The vision that San Leandro has, not just for enabling the residents and everybody else, but also science and technology. So thank you for recognizing Air Protein as a business, and we're very happy with the partnership we have and looking forward to grow here.
So when we say, we've got that tagline, San Leandro is a city where kindness matters and innovation flourishes, those are not empty words. It's companies like Air Protein that make that a true statement. For our large business, we have Shaw Bakers. Where are you, Stefan? Come on down. So I will tell you, I went to the ribbon cutting of Shaw Bakers. The bread is simply amazing. So thank you for having shared that with us. You know, I think that one of the things that's very clear in the city of San Leandro when we look at our competitive advantages, it's food innovation, food tech, and the ability of the city to pivot and to provide a space for Shaw Bakers that has proven to be just a phenomenal space where they were able to relocate production from South San Francisco into San Leandro for the benefit of our community and for others that commute here from far away is just something that we're very grateful for. So thank you. And I very much encourage you to take advantage of their tasty foods. But microphone to you to tell us a few words.
Thank you, Bejo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the city of San Leandro and everyone here tonight. 2 years ago, we were looking for a location where to expand and grow our business. And we found the location in San Leandro. And in less than 10 months, we were able to open our place, hire more than 150 people. And it's about close to a year now that we're open and we are expanding every day. And I think the joy that we have found an amazing place where to grow our business, but especially how to grow the community around our business. Because if we look at all the employees that we have, I will say 70 or 80% of them live in San Leandro or live very close to San Leandro. And every day they go to work. We work very hard in all what we do, but we have the community around it that allowed us to really support each other. And thank you for that. Thank you for coming to the opening and enjoying the good bread and so forth. And you guys should come back. It will be great to have you.
We'll be back.
It's on Catalina Street.
It's on Catalina Street, but that's where they do the manufacturing. The sales of product occurs in individual stores throughout the Bay Area and throughout California.
Thank you. And
Okay.
actually,
Yes.
Japan, Korea, Taiwan, US, Mexico, Canada. I probably forget a few places and everywhere in Europe. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's take a quick picture. All right. Take a little. Do this. You can't walk away with that. This is what makes it real.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our last organization, the recipient of this organization was not able to be here today, but that doesn't mean that we don't honor B3 for the entrepreneurial energy that B3 has brought to San Leandro. B3 investors, as you may know, took what used to be a former Chrysler plant right above Home Depot, and they transformed it into a biotech hub, a center of innovation. We have a number of clean tech companies there. We have Air Protein in that same basic space. It is a space that only came to be because of the investment that has been made in the city and the focus specifically on bringing higher tax, higher wage jobs. And so we're very grateful for the energy that B3 has brought to San Leandro. They also invested in what we used to call the Bayfair Mall, which they have rebranded Speedway at Bayfair. And they have spent energy out there working creatively with the city of San Leandro, finding ways to redesign space in the mall to bring, again, a biotech company like Berkeley Yeast into the mall, by bringing drone companies into the mall, maker spaces where young inventors can create the new opportunities of the future. It's that energy, it's that willingness to invest and take risk that is doing the transformation work that people talk about. They're actually out there doing it. And for supporting innovators and entrepreneurs, we want to thank B3 investors. Okay, so for our last set of appreciations, part of what we do is like to recognize longevity. Folks that have been serving the community for a number of years with persistent effort, not just showing up for one project. And so we're going to begin by recognizing Zach Borja. Where are you, Zach? Come on down. So he has served the city of San Leandro for 5 years on the Human Services Commission. And for those of you that do not know, he will be the newest member to the San Leandro Unified School District Board of Trustees. Let him take his.
Thank you so much. You know, Councilmember Baloo, it's all because of you that I'm here today. Met with Baloo over at a cafe in downtown, and he said, you know, I really need a commissioner to go fill a spot. So why don't you come on and go volunteer your time? That was 5 years ago, and we're here today. And I didn't expect to go and spend my time doing this. It was a meeting once a day or once a month in the other room over there. And I just went in there and thought, I don't know what I'm doing. But every single meeting, I learned more about our city and our community and what I can do to support. And as we can see today, with all the people coming up, getting awards and recognitions, there's so much that our city has with regards to potential and opportunity. And I go to these meetings and I volunteer my time and I have my business here in the city because I see that our community has so much opportunity and potential. And so I'm so glad that people like all of our council members here and you, Mayor, are doing your work to go and make sure our city is a better place. And all of you here today are part of that. Being here, representing and making sure that you do your best to raise your families and keep your businesses and do your jobs here. So thank you for doing your best as well. And thanks to my family back there too. Ooh, all right, yeah. Well, thank you so much.
And you get this too. But wait, there's more. Letha Zuber. Where are you, Letha? I did not see Letha earlier, so she may not be here tonight. Bella. Hey. There was so many good things said. I don't know if there's anything left to say. It really boils down to longevity, though. This is 15 years of service. on the senior commission. Wow. I just want to say thank you. You're an amazing person. You've done a lot to support our community. And the impact that I see most importantly right now is the age-friendly initiatives. And the way that we're thinking, the way that we're talking about things like the bicycle pedestrian commission, it's focused on, are we really age-friendly? Not how quickly can we zip around on some kind of e-bike, but what are we doing to be age-friendly? And that's because of your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and the City Council members for this certificate. The last 15 years on the Senior Commission have been very rewarding and a great learning experience for me. The highlight of my tenure has been the opening of the Senior Center in 2010 and the relocation of the Center of the Elder Independence in San Leandro, and of course the Age-Friendly Initiative. Thanks again to all of you.
Thank you, Bella. Yes. Yeah, we already got our picture. That was a lot of recognitions, a lot of great things happening in San Leandro. So let's give all of our recipients a round of applause. So now we've got a full business meeting. No one should feel obligated to stay here. You're more than welcome to stay and hear all the business of the city. But if you're going to leave, this would be the right time to leave. Okay, so as folks are clearing the room, and again, thanks. So grateful that so many people would come out to support others. This is going to be the time for item number 5, which is the consent calendar. At this point in time, I will ask to see if there's anything that anybody wants to pull. And then prior to pulling, or after we go through this, then we will have public comment on the consent calendar. And then after that, we will again let council members make a decision on whether they want to pull something. At this point, I'm going to call on Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Thank you. I don't want to pull it, but there was on the committee minutes for the Finance Committee on November 20th. It's item 5L. Just wanted to ask, when is that going to come back to the council? Specifically on the ARPA items?
I'm going to pass that to City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to look at my Assistant City Manager, but I believe that is the 9th of December. Okay, I'm right, the 9th, December 9th.
Oh, so it'll come back in December. Oh, in a week
from today.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to pull it. I just didn't know when it was going to come back.
Good clarification. And just to be clear, we can ask those quick clarifying questions. It's super fast. Okay, Vice Mayor Simon, please.
I wanted to pull item 5H.
Okay, Councilmember Aguilar.
I'd like to move the consent calendar with the exception of item 5H.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion from Councilmember Aguilar with a second from Councilmember Baloo to move our consent calendar absent item 5H. Okay, so now let's hear from our public.
Mr. Mayor, we have no general public comment on consent, but we have one for 5H, so we'll wait until that item? Or do you want to take 5H comment now?
This is the opportunity for public comment on the consent calendar, so we'll take it right now.
Correct. Emily Rich? We also have three hands up online.
Hi, I'm Emily Rich. I'm speaking today supporting the item 5H on the consent calendar that proposes to double the rewards for the unsolved murders of Marius Robinson, Kwame Nunn, Del Allen Pan, and our next door neighbor, Joel Ramirez. December 14th will mark the 10th anniversary of Joel's tragic unsolved murder. I'd like to recognize that Joel's aunt and cousin, Delia and Salma Aceves, are here tonight. Marius's, Kwame's, and Alan's families have waited even longer. I knew our neighbor Joel, and he was a very nice kid. He was funny, personable, was loved and in love, was working, going to school at Chabot, and was about to celebrate his 21st birthday when, apparently mistaken for someone else, he became a victim of gun violence in his own driveway. Each year, the San Leandro Scholarship Foundation presents scholarships in his name to deserving San Leandro High seniors from the SLAM Academy and to those pursuing a career in law enforcement. At Joel's Candlelight Vigil in 2014, the SLPD promised never to quit until they found those responsible. My husband Rob met with each successive police chief, except our current chief, Avariet, to make sure they knew about the case. After a decade, we're realistic about the chances of an arrest. Yet what better way to honor the memory of these victims than by increasing the rewards for their cold, unsolved murders? To send a powerful message both to the victims' families and to those who would perpetrate violent crime in our community. San Leandro does not forget. San Leandro does not quit. Justice for Joel and Alan and Kwame and Marius. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we will now go to online public comment.
Thank you.
Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you
We could hear you. Can you try again?
hear me still?
Yes, we can. It cut off at the end.
I apologize. Thank you for taking my comment, Mayor and Council, and I am calling to make a comment about item 5D on the consent calendar, as well as item 5G on the consent calendar. On item 5D, $200,000 with an additional $50,000 for a single truck. I invite the council to, maybe during the break or whenever, type into Google or wherever you get your search results, 2025 Ford Model F550 LT40, and see what price comes up. I went to the official Ford website and I loaded up that truck with everything I could, custom cup holders, backup cameras, lights, everything I could. The most I could get it up to was $93,000. I don't know where the other $100,000 is coming from. I don't know why we need an additional $50,000 in case $200,000 isn't enough. But I loaded up a souped-up 2025 Ford Model F550 LT40 into my cart. I couldn't come up with $250,000 for that purchase. And then on item 5G, thank you very much for funding, services to clean up the city. We need that. I try to contribute on my own when I go to parks and, do my part. But I don't know if you've seen the billing schedule in Exhibit B on page 17 of the consulting services agreement, but we are being billed for a lead technician at $100 an hour, for an operator driver at $200 an hour, bin disposal, $350 per bin. I wonder if we could hire some of the unemployed or the homeless in the city to do this type of work for $20, $30, $40 an hour. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Karina Lopez, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you and good evening. I'll be short. I would like to, honor Joel Ramirez and his memory and his family members that are there in the audience while I was on the city council. And we went through this as a community. It was very heartbreaking and continues to be so. So I'm very glad the council is considering doubling the reward to 100,000. My comment here is very similar to the comment that I had when I was at the dais, is that we really do need to be serious about crime and about justice for the families of those that have been lost, and that the amount should actually be equal for every person here that's listed, the 4 people that are in this agenda item, not just one person, so that each member or each person has the reward amount assigned of 100,000, rather than 20, et cetera. That seems very counterproductive, really. Each one of these individuals should at least have 100,000 for their names and for the justice of their families. I would venture to say that because of the seriousness of the matter, of anybody who does come forward, that they could possibly be killed for doing so and providing information to the police, that we actually further endow this number past 100,000. It really should be a higher number. I do know that there are things in the agenda item tonight that are actually a lot more expensive, and I think that money really ought to be going to this instead. And that we should really be serious about what the future looks like and the consequences of ending other people's lives, that there will be justice for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas Spalding, you may unmute yourself. Douglas Spalding, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Clancy. Good evening, members of the council. I'd like to speak to items 5D and 5E. I went through the same exercise as Lucas, although I didn't I didn't include the cup holders. I believe that part of the discrepancy may be that this truck can be outfitted with this Super Duty truck can be outfitted with an aerial lift platform. So I think that might be what we're purchasing with the $250,000. I just am curious. I mean, the price tag caught my eye, but I'm curious, what is the truck going to be used for? I assume maybe somewhere in Public Works, but I sure would like to know. The other item, 5E, is a similar price tag, $180,000 to run a winter shelter, which I think is really necessary, and I appreciate that our city is going to that extent to provide those services. I would be interested to know, like, what are the beginning and ending dates of the winter shelter, and what days and hours does that entail, and what services does that entail? I just am kind of curious to know what goes into the winter shelter. And I also would note that even though it's a generous sum, it's not nearly enough to serve the needs of all the unhoused and those that may not have heat in the winter. We need some multiples, maybe low digit integer multiples. But I know, as I've said many times, like a winter encampment, we could do for under $1 million. 180,000, I kind of think of that as the equivalent of one San Leandro Police Department officer, or maybe somebody else in our city government. But there's always that balance, that tension between hiring people and paying for salary versus paying for services. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
Okay, so I'll close public comment and I'll bring it back to city manager. And if you want to pass it along to somebody, it's my understanding that the truck in question is not a pickup truck per se, but rather essentially I don't know what you'd call it, a bucket truck or something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the truck in question is a bucket truck that has a large, what we call a cherry picker lift on the front. For any additional questions, Director Sheila Marquises is also here.
Okay. I think that you can go online and look for a similar truck. A used truck like that might cost $170,000-$180,000. So if we're talking about buying a new truck, I can see that it's within the realm of possibilities. I'm assuming that the $50,000 kind of give or take is only to enable you to address some unforeseen contingencies and not an expectation that it would cost that much.
That is correct. We're hoping not to have to spend, so we don't have to come back.
Okay, thank you. We also had a request by a member of the public asking whether we could have an equal reward for each of the unsolved homicides. So I'll first ask the legal question. Is there anything that prevents us from right here today making that adjustment?
No, Mayor, there's not. This is a resolution amongst the council.
And then from a financial concern, obviously we need to be fiduciaries of the city's money. But given what we know at this point in time, are there things that you would want us to consider before making that decision, City Manager?
The hope is that we would be able to solve these crimes. Allocation for board. So I'd say if the council.
Okay.
Thank you. What I was saying is that if the council supports the increase of the allocated funding for rewards, staff supports that as well.
Okay. So at this point in time, I'm going to go to who pulled the item? Was it Vice Mayor? Okay. Would you like to make
We haven't approved the consent calendar with the exception of 5H yet. There's a motion and a second on the floor to approve without, and we went to public comment. We haven't acted on that yet.
Fair enough. It's unfortunate that we had a motion. So let's come back and let's vote on that item.
To confirm, we're voting on consent.
On consent on this, on the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, thank you. All votes are in. Motion passes 601 with Councilmember Bowen absent.
So given what we've heard from City Manager and City Attorney, would folks like to reformulate 5H as an equal amount of $100,000? Councilmember Acevedo.
Yes, I would like to move that where we make them an equal amount of 100,000 for all the victims.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Yes, I support that. And I wanted to add a little bit, if I could.
Please do.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit. I have some personal knowledge and information on one of the murders. And first, I wanted to say my thoughts and prayers are with the family that are here tonight. This is a small little thing that can be done. Can't match your loss, but thoughts and prayers are with you. But one of the murders occurred 2 blocks from my home. And I remember when it happened, it was horrific. And it was Julian Alan Pan who was killed trying to help his mother-in-law. And she was coming home, bringing her groceries, the mother-in-law, and he comes out seeing her being robbed. And he is shot and killed right in the driveway 2 blocks from my house. Just shook our whole neighborhood. And to this day, as we know, it hasn't been solved. And I'm so glad that this is being considered to increase it to a higher amount. And we heard one member of the public mention bringing it even above 100,000. So, I mean, 100, I think, is nice, bringing the other ones back to the equal amount. But I would like to have some discussion to at least, what is the value? Should it be more than 100? 125, 150? I think it's something to consider, for us to consider. So I would be open to more than, I mean, I know, Brian, you mentioned 100. I support that. But this is serious. I mean, we really need to solve these crimes. So I would throw out 150. just to see what folks think on council.
Councilmember Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't usually disclose this, but I will say that I was somewhat involved in this process when I heard Councilmember Simon a few months ago say that he thought we should double these rewards. I have some experience with this from my prior work at the police department, whereas it really, believe it or not, it really isn't as much the amount of money as it is keeping the knowledge of these heinous crimes current and fresh and in the public eye, and maybe getting a little bit of press when we increase it to whatever amount we increase it to. I would hope it would be significant in the press. I think that we have to be stewards of, you know, the residents of San Leandro City's money, but at the same time, we do have to call attention to that. I don't think we can put an amount out there that would equal the value of any of these victims' lives. I am personally haunted by the murder of Joel Ramirez because of what I used to do, and those are the ones that just keep you up at night. The other ones I don't know, I have all the intimate details about, but knowing the intimate details of that and having gone to one of the memorials over on Kenilworth, or on the block where it occurred, those are the ones that haunt you. So my intent when I actually drafted the memo on this, the resolution on this, and then Assistant Chief Torres polished it up because I didn't do a good enough job the first time. But the intent was really not as focused on the money, because the original request was to double the reward money. And now if we're up to 100,000, I'm totally good with, I totally could support that. But I think the important piece is that, like I said, we keep this at the front of the top of the list, that these are important to us. I also just want to add that I would, looking forward, just to put one positive spin, if I can, on any of this, because of recent events of this council and approving the flock cameras and approving the other technologies in town and knowing the technology that's available to law enforcement these days, I doubt very seriously whether we'll have any more unsolved murders. It's just how much resources you want to put to it, or call in the feds or whatever to be able to solve these crimes. And I wish we had that technology 10 years ago, because we may have had one or two more of these murders solved. But the fact that we don't, again, I think this is just to create the conversation, to remind people that if they want to come forward, there is some incentive. There is a risk involved, as someone stated. But the risk is the same, whether it's a $10,000 reward, $20,000 or $100,000 reward to whoever's coming forward. So I don't know what that balance point is. I mean, if we could, I'd say let's put $1 million in. But is that really going to incentivize the person to come forward with that information or not? I don't know. So I don't know what the reasonable amount is. I'm comfortable with 100,000. I'm a little careful going above that unless we look at the budget and see whether the money is actually allocated, because it does have to be, is encumbered the right word, or it has to be available?
So coming to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. It's allocated. So just allocating the money within the budget for this purpose.
So again, I don't think you can put a value on a human life. I mean, we don't have the money in our budget to do that. If we had our whole budget, $180 million, I don't think, you can put that value on the loss that the people that are here, people that have suffered, are experiencing. But I'm ready to support. I think $100,000 is reasonable and quite an incentive for someone to come forward. It's 5 times the amount that's recommended for a couple of these murders now. And I do believe there should be some equity.
So with full respect for all of your work on the police department, I'm going to call on the chief to get the chief's perspective on this item as well. Are you back? There you are. Come on down. Because I think that's an interesting question about the role that the publicity plays. And I read a little note to myself about the importance of press and getting renewed attention. So give me your thoughts. Give us your thoughts.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do think that it's a good idea to increase the reward amounts. I agree with Councilmember Baloo that you can't put a price tag on someone's life, but by increasing the reward amounts, hopefully equally across the board, sometimes it does encourage people that have information to come forward. And we need that critical information in order to have enough to charge someone. That's the problem. Sometimes we have people identified as suspects in these homicides, but without the proper information or evidence, it won't lead to charging. So my hope is that this will encourage someone out there who has information to come forward about one of these cases.
Okay, at this point, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief right now? Because what I'd like to do is move on to other council members. Okay, Councilmember Aguilar, please. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez, and thank you, Chief, for that perspective, and thank you, Pete, for, the work that you've done, and, Councilmember Simon, I think bringing awareness and increasing the award amount would, be a step closer to justice, or somebody potentially coming out and saying something. And I think that's something that I would support in increasing that value that Councilmember Simon had suggested. So, are we looking for a motion to move this to?
We have a motion on the floor. Councilmember Azevedo has moved that we double the reward and that we, I guess, quintuple the reward for the other 2 unsolved murders. That's at least the motion that I heard, but I've not heard a second on that motion. So would you like to second his motion?
I would like to have Councilmember Acevedo consider increasing the amount to 150,000.
Yes, I'll accept that.
So we've got a friendly amendment to the
And
amount
I
that's
will,
been requested.
yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a motion to increase the amount uniformly across the unsolved murders that are listed here in this resolution to $150,000. We've got a motion from Councilmember Acevedo with a second from Councilmember Aguilar. Any further discussion? Councilmember Vedas Walton.
Just to clarify on all of the individuals listed here?
Correct. There were I'll call them a set of 3 unsolved murders, 4 individuals, but across 3 cases. So increasing, if they were all to be solved, so I want to be painfully clear on this, if they were all to be solved this year, because of information brought forward by 1 or more individuals, those individuals would be eligible for up to $450,000 across the 3 cases involving 4 individuals. Any other discussion? Okay, I call the question.
All votes are in. Motion passes 601 with Councilmember Bowen absent.
Okay, at this point in time, we don't have a city manager report that I know of. No. And city attorney report, nothing today. So let's move to public comment. This is the time where the public can comment on items that are not on our agenda for tonight.
Mr. Mayor, we have 2 public comments online and 3 in person. We'll start in person.
Let's go ahead and start in person.
Robert Marujo.
Congrats to Brian. All the right people didn't like you, and I laughed when I heard that so-and-so needed the $24 from everyone who didn't vote for him. All right. We continue to have SLPD refuse to enforce regulations pertaining to SB 946. I've been going back and forth with the mayor himself over this for almost a year. You created special new rules just to make it easier for SLPD to enforce regulations for SB 946. When you call SLPD, however, they claim, and I quote, that a lieutenant has told them they won't do a single thing unless the vendor is blocking the sidewalk. They also claim that code enforcement handles street vendors, including days and times when code enforcement isn't operating. Convenient how that works, isn't it? I'll be direct. The mayor, not the city manager or anyone else, needs to march over to the department and say, "Hi, I'm your boss's boss. Enforce the regulations for SB 946 or I'm going to fire you." If this doesn't suffice as motivation, I have something better, which I've shared already with the mayor and the council, which is I'll be turning this into a pet project, and gathering members of the community, including business owners, and pooling our knowledge and resources to bring legal action against the city and or SLPD to get this resolved. SLPD will not be engaging in selective enforcement of our laws and regulations, whether based on politics, race, or any other factor. And as far as members of the council go, let me remind you, your personal activism will not be tolerated. I don't know why a single one of you would be openly weeping during a meeting when you're all on equal footing. Feel threatened? Go to SL Times or social media with the receipts. But if anyone on this council thinks they're going to threaten and intimidate to get their way in this city, you're in for a rude awakening. You don't own this city. We do. These people. The people of San Leandro. This last election should have been a wake-up call.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mike Katzlakabe.
Good evening, everybody. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, members of the public. My name is Mike Katzlakabe. The city has spent millions of dollars on technology for the police department with the promise of providing greater transparency and accountability. Body-worn cameras, for example, were purchased in 2014 for more than $1 million. However, like most police departments, the San Leandro Police Department rarely released video captured by these body-worn cameras, except when the police department was sued, usually for excessive force, including killing people. It was such a problem that the California State Legislature passed a law in 2018 to require police departments to release body-worn camera video for the officer-involved shootings and other critical incidents within 45 days. Fast forward to this year, when the San Leandro Police Department installed dash cams in its vehicles. These cameras capture video as the vehicle drives through the city, automatically capturing data on every vehicle and video of the things seen by the person driving the vehicle. On November 4th, 2024, a San Leandro police SUV speeding south on East 14th Street without any lights or sirens ran a red light at Parrott Street, nearly crashing into a white sedan. Immediately after, the San Leandro police SUV turned right on Thornton Avenue, apparently to reduce the possibility of being followed and identified by the vehicle that it nearly hit. 5 days later, I filed a public records request for video from the near crash. 12 days later, my request received the following response, quote, "We are unable to locate records responsive to your request." So forgive me if I question how these cameras can be used for transparency and accountability and oversight if the police department is unable to find the video from this incident. Or perhaps I'm not cynical enough and the police can find video, but maybe just not for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darlene Evans.
One thing we all can celebrate any month of the year is the truth. And it's now December. And the last meeting of the city council is for emergencies. A couple years ago, police chief came and asked for $150,000 and everybody voted for it. And I find out from the city clerk, it was never granted because the finance department, because anything over $100,000, got to get their approval. I called California, San Leandro PD, about what he's been talking about. Albert, he says, "Oh, I know you from a long time ago," but I don't know how he knows me. He's in the San Leandro Police Department, and he's telling me a lie. And he's talking to me 2 days or so in a row. And the hedges are being cut down next to the pharmacy across from the Palma Plaza so that the 48-year-old woman who just had her birthday and is homeless has no protection from wind or anything else, and we don't get to see the clothes all over the place or anything. So I asked for a welfare check, and he asked me to stay on the line because he's got 911. And I realized, you know what? That falsifies my call, in essence. My sister was a police dispatcher. Here's what happens. I see the San Leandro PD doing a welfare check because I'm at the senior center and I look through the curtains. Now, here's the thing. What's Sarah going to do? It was her birthday. I'd be upset too. But instead of the city providing places where you have a public toilet, we don't do really anything really constructive. She's been out there for 4 years. Midas touched, she was in the shrubbery across from where I live. I worked more than 2.5 years over there. We have new management where I live. We have Subway that just took down everything and they're not coming back. We really don't know our neighborhood. And I don't know that our council people.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, we will now go online.
Thank you.
Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Council, for taking a second comment of mine this evening. I really appreciate the focus on public safety and following up on unsolved crimes. And I wanted to draw the Council's attention to sanleandro.org/449/crime stats, where the city publishes crime statistics going all the way back to 1980, where you can see annual crime levels in the city. They haven't changed much, regardless of all the investment in security. It seems like we're still seeing a consistent level of crime, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 crimes every year for the last 40, 50 years. Last year, we had 5,698 crimes reported. This year, the date's cut off at September, but so far we have a bit over 3,000. The year will likely end at around 4,000 crimes. When our new police chief got confirmed, I requested that we start publishing not just crime incidence data, but also crime resolution data or clearance rates. Unfortunately, they're not on the website for our city, but I was able to find clearance data on openjustice.doj.ca.gov for Alameda County. And for homicide, it's about 48% in 2023. Forcible rape, 13%. Robbery, 8% clearance rates. Aggravated assaults, 10% clearance rate. Property crimes, all property crimes together, 3.2% clearance rates. So I want to ask the chief, do we have data that's better than this? I hope so. And if we don't, why not? It's been a while and we've spent a lot of money, and it's been a while since the chief has been confirmed. Can we get an update on progress? Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas Spalding, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. In response to Lucas's question, I can tell you from my amateur study of criminology that yeah, deterrence doesn't really make that much of a difference in terms of crime rates. What does make a difference is how the economy is going. And what does make a difference is how crime is portrayed in the media. So, you know, we get whipped into a frenzy thinking that the crime rate has really increased. What I raised my hand to speak about is something not on the agenda. It was on last agenda, and that would be the censure resolution, which I'd like to reprise here for a brief moment. I believe you members of the council thought you were doing the right thing when you voted to censor our 2 council members. And I believe that you thought we needed to, you know, instill more confidence in our government. But I believe what you instead did was really project a chilling image of San Leandro as a city of internal politics. And my concern is this: the standard of proof in a court of law is much more stringent than what your quote unquote independent investigator presented to you. And while I don't know whether this would happen in this case, but you know, if this is something that you pursue again down the road, you know, potentially you're putting the city in liability for things like a suit for discrimination, a suit for denying free speech, a suit for preventing a public official from doing their job, from fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility when their assessment is that something's going horribly wrong, as in the firing of our former police chief. So we spent a lot of time on that, and we spent a lot of time on all the recognitions tonight. I laud that, but lost in all the recognition is recognition for the need for housing protections, for housing stabilization. And so I really hope we get to item 11 tonight. We've been waiting more than a month now to introduce some resolution for some kind of housing stabilization. I won't hold my breath.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, there's no more public comment.
Okay, so we will close public comment. I'm just looking through if we had any questions that were asked that we can address quickly. I think we will follow up with the individual speakers as we get some additional information, unless you have anything that you're able to offer at this time. Okay, but your questions have been noted and we will follow up with you. So at this point in time, let's move to our next item, which is public hearings. Today, we don't have any public hearings or presentations. But we do have under our agenda 10 action items. We've got item 10A, which is adopting a resolution to approve the 2024 update to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And we've got Public Works Senior Engineer Nicole Castellino here to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Nicole Castellino, and I'm a senior engineer working with the transportation section. Tonight's action item includes a presentation to adopt a resolution to approve the 2024 update to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. The plan represents over a year of outreach, community engagement, planning, and coordination to create this update. At this time, I ask any members from the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to stand up. I'd personally like to thank them for their service and input on this plan, as well as the other bike and ped items we've discussed, and they have supported all year. At this time, I would like to introduce Carrie Modi, principal at Fair and Piers, who assisted the city in the development of this plan. She also presented in October at the city's Facilities and Transportation Committee. Carrie?
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. Okay, so much. All right. Thank you, council members and mayor. Some of these slides may look familiar to you for those of you who are on the facilities committee, but really excited to be here with you all this evening. Hopefully,
We're gonna wait for just a second till we get it.
Sure.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Push a few
Should
magic.
presumably appear here. Yeah.
It's coming.
We'll wait patiently.
Computer is locked currently in the tech room, I believe. Jim is here to fix it.
All right, now we're working. So some of these slides may look familiar to all of, for those of you who sit on the facilities committee. We're really excited to be here tonight at this really celebration at the end of the process, and hopefully looking to have your approval on this evening. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about the plan, share a little bit of the process to date, and also share a summary of what's included inside the plan as well. So a little bit about the plan, why update this? This is really a focused update to the city's 2018 plan, which creates a 5-year work plan of projects and programs that support walking and biking in San Leandro. So it provides that kind of near-term update, really useful for staff to understand what are the latest priorities and how to advance them. And that's really the idea behind this focused update, is get new kind of prioritization and implementation strategy information, and also to re-engage with the community members. And you saw many of them who have served on the BPAC so far as well, and get some update on some of the technical tasks and needs going on in the city as well. One of the most critical updates to this plan is based on policy actions that the city took in 2021 around the time of the adoption of the local roadway safety plan. At that point, the city adopted a Vision Zero policy. Vision Zero is a policy that aims to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries. And so a major aspect of this plan is trying to get that to zero. That's especially important when we're talking about people walking and biking, because they have the most vulnerable bodies of anyone out in the street. And so since 2017, there have been 3 fatal and 20 severe injury collisions involving bicyclists and pedestrians. citywide in San Leandro. And so the Safe System approach in Vision Zero says that that's unacceptable. And so this plan aims to implement safety improvements to address those and hopefully prevent those kinds of collisions from happening in the future. The focused update also incorporates other kinds of new best practice guidance. So there's been a lot of movement by at the national level, both from federal policy as well as the National Association of City Transportation Officials, to streamline best practices when it comes to biking and walking. This is just one example. Don't dig in on the details, but there's a lot of great guidance out there. You can feel free to spend more time on that in the plan itself, that says when we should separate people biking from people driving to make sure that there's safe streets for everyone involved. So this recent plan update was developed over the last year with engagement during each stage of the engagement process, or each stage of the planning process. So it was initiated in fall 2023. The focus first on needs, that was taken to the community. Then the network recommendations were developed. That was again taken back to community members. And then the prioritization and implementation, making sure that we had heard people correctly during the first two phases, and then the actual draft plan as well was taken back out to the community members again. And now we're here in the winter of 2024, hopefully adopting the plan update. Here's just an example of what some of that engagement looked like. We had the privilege of talking to San Leandrans at the tree lighting ceremony in 2023, as well as the Cherry Festival in June, which are pictured here. Over 170 people were engaged at those two events alone. We also received input online about current conditions and the draft network recommendations. So this is just an example of what the online interactive website looked like. We had over 1,800 website visitors to date and had over 350 comments placed around the city talking about issues and ideas for improvements citywide. Now I'll talk briefly about what else is included in the plan. That was about the process. So the plan consists of 6 chapters as well as a series of appendices, and I'll go through those now. First is the vision. This was really developed with substantial input from the BPAC. And the vision is that San Leandro will be a connected community where walking and biking are fully integrated into daily life as safe, equitable, and enjoyable transportation options for people of all ages and abilities. And so based on that, there are 4 goals. First is really focused on the safe system, which I defined earlier in the presentation, but based on the premise of having 0 fatalities and severe injuries for people walking and biking. Making sure that there are robust community support programs to round out the infrastructure improvements that are recommended in the plan. That there are comprehensive, comfortable, and connected system of walking and biking networks. And then also really making sure that these are fundable and implementable projects and programs that the city can confidently advance. And it's important to note that the recommendations build off the work that the city has done since the 2018 plan. And there's actually quite a lot that the city has done. Over 500 curb ramps have been upgraded during that time. 33 intersections have new pedestrian improvements in that time. There's 11 miles of new bike routes, 2 miles of new bike lanes, and 1 mile of new separated bikeways as well. So a lot of work has been done. And then what the plan does in the pedestrian chapter is creates a set of priority areas within the city. That's what's shown in the light purple here. These are the pedestrian priority areas, which are really about the streets that access schools, parks, transit hubs, and commercial areas. These are kind of citywide, and these are where most of the pedestrian improvements would be kind of concentrated and prioritized for improvement. In red are shown the safety priority corridors from the LRSP, so you can get a sense of which areas citywide are kind of highest priority for safety as well, and those definitely intersect throughout the city. Here are some of the typical project types that would, again, can you still see it? Okay. So some of these should look like familiar tools from around the city already, but the idea is to get more of these in those purple shaded areas and making sure that we're having that complete package of safety improvements at a variety of intersections and streets throughout the city. The proposed bikeway network will provide access for people of all ages and all abilities, and this is really an update to the previous map and a kind of new commitment for the bicycle network here. And that's why you see that the majority of lane miles that are proposed are separated bikeways, which provide that separation in space between people driving and people biking, which is a really safe design type. These are the examples of the bikeways that will be recommended, that are recommended in the plan. So the separated bike lane that I was just talking about is the example in the top left, where we have a physical barrier from the lanes of traffic. Okay. And then other tools that you're already familiar with, such as bike lanes, bike boulevards, and then shared use paths. The project locations for recommendation were scored and prioritized based on 5 criteria. We actually responded to a community feedback on these too throughout the process, and in particular with coordination with the BPAC. So the priorities were safety need, community input, growth, community destinations, of which senior centers is also included there, and equity. And so with that, the plan has over 100 bicycle corridors where priority bicycle improvements are recommended. 14 of those are recommended as high priority corridors, which I'll show you on a slide in a minute. And then there's over 126 pedestrian intersections where improvements are recommended, and 15 of those are identified as high priority intersections, with the idea that these are the ones that would be advanced first for additional for funding and implementation. This is just a list showing here of what the high priority bike corridors and high priority pedestrian intersections are, who the lead agency is, because in some cases it may not be the city of San Leandro, for example, on the Caltrans right away on Davis Street, and then also the status. So the other part here is that San Leandro has already been advancing work on some of these corridors, which is great. So this really indicates that continuing to advance those projects through to design and ultimately to implementation. And then we have the implementation and funding aspects of the plan. This provides a kind of cost per mile estimate of how much these kinds of bicycle facilities can typically cost. These range a lot and have a lot of different assumptions around them relative to the design, but gives you a sense of what that is. The total cost of the 14 high priority bike projects is estimated to be $200 million. That obviously is a lot of money. And also that is really important for creating a safe system in San Leandro. And so those projects would be phased in as funds are available and as projects can be delivered over time. The plan also estimates costs for pedestrian improvements. So this table here shows the different kinds of improvements at various intersections and crosswalks in the city. And the total cost of the 15 high priority pedestrian projects is estimated to be around $11 million. And then finally, the plan outlines existing and proposed active transportation support programs for the city and its partners. So this is where the plan gets into bike parking, education, things like safe routes to school, maintenance, which is always important, wayfinding, as well as traffic calming. And then the appendices to the plan include a design guide. And this is where the really the details of how the city will go about this are listed. So this includes things like dimensions, different design principles of how San Leandro will implement the different pedestrian and bicycle facilities. That concludes the presentation. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions as well, and we look forward to taking those.
Okay, so at this point in time, we will take questions from council members, beginning with Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Thank you. I'll start with some kind of overall questions, and then I'll kind of zero in on some specific areas. Just a little bit of, so thank you so much for all of your work, for the folks that contributed to the creation of this plan. Thank you very much. I just wanted to provide some feedback. The majority of the document does not have page numbers, so it's hard to follow. No, the actual plan. So when I'm looking through the document, it's hard to reference. So if you look through the Adobe part, that's the number I'm referencing, not the chapter. There's like a 6-4, I don't know what that number means, but you know what I mean. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be referencing, our page numbers. So I'm actually looking at the actual plan. So I'm looking at page 45. And I'm going to combine the two questions. One is a lot of the funding sources, which are described in page 52, it looks like the majority of the maintenance is funded locally. So a lot of the grant programs don't fund maintenance. They just fund the actual construction. Yes. Okay. So then when I look at page 45, which is the anticipated, I'm sorry, let me just go back to page 45 because yeah, so when I look at page 45 and I look at the cost of the unit, the unit and then what it cost, since the city is mostly on the hook for these types of improvements, it would be useful to know the lifespan of how often are we expected to replace these so that we build them into the budget. As we talk about capital improvement needs for the city, it's something that especially for the big ticket items, are they expected to replace every 10 years, every 5 years, so that we can, as we prioritize which ones we would like to start with, that could also be just one of the variables that we think about. And then just along the lines of priority, I'm specifically looking at the new shared use paths. Are there any priority assigned to that? It looks like most of it is happening in kind of open spaces on the west side of the city. Is there any priority talked about, like which ones of them would be constructed first?
Yeah, so you're correct that generally the new paths are not in the highest priority. So you read that correctly. And then all of the projects are scored high, medium, and low in the appendix. You can see how, if there's a particular path you're curious about, was scored there.
Can you point me to the page number? Just when you get a chance, not like right now, you just send me an email. Thank you for that. And I just wanted to zero in on a specific shared use path that was proposed, and that is specific to Lake Chabot Road. And I wanted to kind of just dig into a little deeper on that. If the proposal here changes the Lake Chabot Road portion from Estudillo up until that neighborhood that goes into Lake Chabot Park. If it gets changed from a bike path to a shared use path, what does it mean for the future use of the road? So the road right now is currently closed to traffic. If it gets changed to a shared use path, what would it mean for the future use of the road? So yeah.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jason Imai. I'm the city engineer for the Public Works Engineering Department. That would have to be determined at that time based on an analysis of the feasibility based on the current use of that road. If it's open or closed, there's several factors that would have to go into it. It may be actually determined that, based on further engineering evaluation, that a shared use path can't be easily or economically made, and then the decision will be made at that time to possibly defer that. The Bike and Ped Master Plan is a guideline. It's like a recommendation that we would suggest a shared use path on this to provide the safest and the most equitable, transportation facilities, but the actual detailed analysis of how that's implemented on each street, that has to be done at the time of the implementation.
Thank you. I just have two more questions. I'm looking at my so the council hasn't made a decision on Lake Chabot Road, on the status of it. So if the council approves this document as presented with Lake Chabot Road redesignated as a shared use path. Yeah, shared use path. If the road opens what happens to if there are any improvements done to that street? Say the Lake Chabot Road is closed, it continues to be closed. The road is changed, that portion of Lake Chabot Road is changed to shared use. What changes would you have to do to bring it back so that it gets reopened to traffic?
Just to clarify, Lake Chabot Road has not been changed in its designation. It was shown in the 2018 master plan as shared use.
But to follow up on the question, it would if the decision was made to make it a shared use path, and we're not saying that it has been at this time. Again, we would have to evaluate the recommendations based on the current use of Lake Chabot Road or any impending decisions on whether to open that or not. But if hypothetically the decision was made to make it a shared use path, and then the decision was made to convert it back to vehicular mode, then engineering and the council would have to decide on how best to implement that. There are ways that you could possibly do both, but there's costs and right away, and then that comes with each. So that decision would be made during the design development of the project.
Thank you. And just my final question, what does a shared use path look like in a residential area? Because part of that would go through the residential part that leads into Lake Chabot Park, or not Lake Chabot, Chabot Park. What would that look like in a residential area?
The design guidelines include some information on that, but that could look like different things. And again, as Jason said, that would really need to be defined in that kind of like next phase of design development. That's kind of after the citywide master plan level. But it could, conversations you might have with community members in a typical corridor study like that would look at what are the materials? Is it asphalt? Is it concrete? To those points Jason was making about like what are the capital costs? Those would really change what that looks like and how long you might want to have that in there before you change a project, for example. So there are ways to do it a little bit more efficiently there. But you could have a landscape buffer, you could have all sorts of things. And so it really is about that design and that feasibility study that would be in that next phase where you'd get your questions answered.
But typically a shared use path in a residential area is like a 10-foot, 12-foot wide path of some material, either concrete or asphalt concrete or decomposed granite or something that will allow enough width to have multimodal access to the trail.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Great job, staff, and also community members. I'm very excited to see this come forward to council. Very excited. And I have a few questions for you. And my first question is, I think when it came last to council, I had asked about us leading by example, city council, city staff, and us riding bikes more. Has there been any consideration into getting city staff, whether it's sworn or police or unsworn staff, riding bikes to meetings or around town?
Good evening again, City Engineer Jason Imai. I can't speak for police, but I don't know of any plans at this time, but we can certainly take that into consideration, bring back to staff to maybe think of ways to encourage staff to bike to certain events.
Okay, that would be nice to see. The next question is, I'm also very excited to see on your slide 17, you have a new trail to the bay, in Heron Bay, and it's very nice to see that. And it crosses the railroad tracks, which is a difficulty. And I wanted to know what's been done with looking at railroad crossings in this particular example where there is no trail there now, and how would you deal with the railroad? Would you go just straight across the tracks? Do you need an elevated ramp over it? What thought has been put into the railroad? Because I really like this trail and would like to see it move forward.
I'll attempt to answer the question and then I'll look to our consultant Carrie to add on anything I missed. But again, these are conceptual recommendations, ideas. We haven't looked at each crossing, but in general, in order to do pedestrian improvements at any crossing, you would have to reach out to the CPUC and UP to create, to meet their federal guidelines and standards for pedestrian crossings in consideration of the rails operation as well. So there are several different options, but staff would work hand in hand with the CPUC and UP and FRA even to see how we could best implement pedestrian safety as well as vehicular, but and also being considerate of the rails operation as well.
And that's right. And generally speaking, railroads do not allow additional new crossings of a path. And so there would be a likelihood that you'd be looking at some sort of grade separated structure, or perhaps maybe doing a swap where you're kind of closing another existing at grade crossing and introducing this one. Those may be opportunities, but those would be the kind of things that you would explore with that collaboration and coordination moving forward.
Thank you. I know it's very difficult working with the railroad, and the more ideas we start early working with them will help us. That swap is an interesting one. So thank you. The next question is back to that Bay Trail, that new trail I see across Heron Bay, and ways to save money and bringing the community involved with the process. Have we considered having community members help build the trails? And why I say this is looks like a dirt trail. I mean, it's out in the bay or the Heron Bay marsh area. And just because of reference at Scout Camp, my sons are in Scout camps and they help build trails for bikes, mountain biking. And it's a lot of fun too, to build them and then you get to ride on them. So wanted to know if we've done that, and if not, how could we include the community in building some trails?
That's a interesting idea. I don't think we have current programs that will allow us to do that. We would have to see how that would work. Specifically because technically you would release a public works contract to do the construction. Now, if you maybe designate a portion of the trail that could be done that way, that's possible. But we would have to try to look at the details and consult, especially with our legal assistants, to see how we could get that possibly done. But I don't know of any current programs that would assist with that effort.
Okay, well, we can consider that in the future. And the San Lorenzo Creek, also excited to see that. I know that's a plan that's been in development for quite a while, and HARD, the Park District, and other agencies are coordinating on that. And wanted to know if you see, since it is coordinating with other agencies, do we see this as accelerating quicker, perhaps, since it's with other agencies and other funding sources, or how would that specific San Lorenzo Creek Trail, how do you see that progressing?
Just as a little bit of background, HARD has been doing a fair amount of work to advance the San Lorenzo Creekway already, so that they've led an initial feasibility study and have been working on getting funding for future phases of design development as part of that. So that is something that it's already kind of ongoing, and there are quite a few funding sources, as you note, that do prioritize projects that are multi-jurisdictional, and seeing that as kind of transformative and wanting to kind of reward that collaboration as well.
Thank you. And the Washington Avenue Railroad undercrossing, and I think I've asked that question before, but wanted to know if is there any more information or detail on that? I know this is just a plan now, but that is such a serious situation there where bikes are kind of funneled down something that's pretty dangerous. Any more input you can provide on that?
I'm appreciating you made this a similar comment in the facilities. No, there's no additional information based on just the kind of citywide nature of this plan, but that is definitely something that would be incorporated into that next stage of design development once those kind of corridor level projects are being fully designed and fleshed out.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions, but I could wait until you keep going. All right. The next question has to do with evacuation routes. And I heard this comment from, I think, the Bayo Vista side regarding, big fire happens in the hills and folks are trying to get out. But you could have some bike paths that are curbs, hard curb structures. And potentially they could reduce the amount of cars needing to flow out in an emergency. Has that been considered or looked at in the plan?
Excuse me. Again, the design details of each particular path or shared path or facility have not been worked out, but it is typical that if we do a shared path on any road, we always consult with fire and PD to see if there's any concerns with regards to emergency access. Should we develop any pedestrian or bicycle paths? Just like anytime we do a class 4 bike lane where you have the bollards, we do consult with them to make sure that they have enough clear room, clear space, clear width, I should say, to provide the emergency services that they need to.
Thank you. My last question has to do with the rolled curbs, which we have a lot of in the matter in pedestrian safety. And the recommendation, I think, is to get rid of them, but how do you do that? How do you get rid of rolled curbs in a 5,000 home neighborhood, the manor?
Yeah, it's costly and it takes time. And so it's a phasing strategy, I think, is the real answer there. It just takes time to change those into a kind of 90-degree curb or something else that prevents cars from parking on the sidewalk and preventing, as they do today, from kind of pedestrians being able to actually use the sidewalk space.
So is it a combined sidewalk curb project all together, or would it just be curb or?
It would have to be a comprehensive project that looks at the sidewalk and the curb, gutter, and the difficulty with road curbs is that you would have to create a formal driveway then, an ADA compliant driveway at each resident. And if there's limited width between the curb and the back of walk, that's rather difficult in order to have the clear ADA access around each ramp. But we're kind of getting into the weeds, but it is a comprehensive project that would have to be done that would look at ADA access, driveway access, and resultant drainage along each of the streets. So it's a involved project that would have. Getting rid of road curbs is recommended, but it's not a simple project.
Glad to see it listed there and a future project. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I would like to ask a couple. I don't know if you're able to toggle presentation so we can go back. In particular, I'd like to go to the page that talks about costs. So one of the things that I picked up from the discussion is, the distinction between, let's say, asphalt and concrete. And so do I walk away from this basically saying that this is the least that it would cost, but it could cost more if it was, I use air quotes, done better?
Sorry. No, this is on the higher side. And, may not be surprising from looking at these numbers, but yeah, so the separated bikeways in particular, a lot of these are trying to use more robust treatment. So rather than just having the more temporary materials, to the council member's earlier point about life cycle costs, things like that, we can get into a territory where we could present you with a smaller number here, but really then you're going to have to replace it frequently because it's made of materials that are less durable. So these are a little bit on the higher side so that you can kind of assume that those are capital costs that are in there for a much longer period of time is the goal and how these cost estimates were created.
So if I look at the shared use, because that's the first one that I saw, if that were concrete instead of asphalt, it would be cheaper.
For that particular one, that would be more expensive typically in concrete. the like concrete comment. So for example, under separated bikeways, this is assumed to have a 4-foot concrete buffer. And that is part of the sizable cost there, for example. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm really just trying to kind of understand what could cause these numbers to change. And so, what I take from that very last comment is that maybe instead of a 4-foot concrete buffer, we might go with 3 feet
Mm-hmm.
or 2 feet.
Mm.
Okay. When we talk, well, I'll save that for comment. If you can go to the next slide. You know, one of the things that I've become more aware of from my work on ACTC is the impact on pedestrians in particular, and pedestrian fatalities, pedestrian injuries. I think there's a growing body of scientific literature talking about pedestrians as opposed to bicyclists. And I noticed that a lot of these changes seem relatively less expensive, but I'm struggling because I don't quite know like the number of lives saved per dollar spent. That's something that you've done in your background analysis, or is that something that would need to be done?
Relative to doing a calculation of like lives.
Yeah.
So there's a common metric that your local road safety plan talks about called a crash reduction factor. And so for each of these kinds of improvement types, what's listed on the left column here, there is a typical kind of crash reduction factor based on the literature you're referring to that says what percentage of collisions are likely not to occur once this is installed. So that's a pretty common metric that's often used. But typically these kinds of plans don't include that like multiplication out of the lives saved, just, you know, by nature of, yeah, are people wanting that metric or not?
And again, I don't know that this was part of your scope, but if it was, you said, I think 3 fatalities and 20 serious injuries. Was it within your scope to look at the root cause of those?
We did do collision analysis as part of the existing conditions chapter, so there is some information there. We didn't include a detailed study of those as part of it, but it does include some like higher level trends on those fatal and severe injuries in the existing conditions chapter.
Because thinking about the known outcomes that we have, whether this specifically addresses things that would have prevented those or would have reduced the likelihood. And that's what these all represent.
In general, yes, these are tend to be a lot of the kind of common collisions that are occurring. You know, this is pretty well documented in the local roadway safety plan. Again, maybe in a little bit more of the detail you're kind of looking for, of like what are the trends of like what is really happening behind these collisions. So pedestrians crossing at intersections is a common one. Pedestrians at nighttime is a common one. And so you could, though that document has some specifics in it that do start to correlate with this in terms of like, okay, well, what's the solution to dealing with pedestrians crossing in the crosswalk and it's not good enough? Okay, we need to enhance it. Let's add the rectangular rapid flashing beacons to do so, for example.
Yeah, excuse me, Mayor, Jason, my city engineer. Yeah, building on what Carrie said, the local roadway safety plan, which was previously approved and fed into the development and the update of the bicycle master plan, bicycle and pedestrian master plan, does look at causes of the serious and fatal injuries, and it recommends certain countermeasures to prevent those things in the future. But that detail analysis is presented more in the local roadway safety plan, but referenced here in the bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
Okay. I know that in many ways it's a conceptual document. I am curious if there's, how to best ask this. Is it useful to get into the detail at this point, or is it so conceptual that we're really just agreeing on core principles?
There's definitely a core principles element. I mean, a lot of this is the vision for where San Leandro wants to go. And so some of these projects that are recommended here, especially on the bike side, maybe you wouldn't want to go out and build them tomorrow. Like maybe it needs more kind of, organizing, kind of community building, things like that to be able to achieve that project. And so in that way, it's core principles. Like this is the safety principle. This is the principle for what will get more people out walking and biking. But there's also priority projects in here that can be advanced tomorrow and do really have kind of tangible things in them that the city can be immediately advancing. So it's a bit of a both and, but it's really also a vision at the end of the day.
Yeah, to get into the details, like we said earlier tonight, of each specific projects, like what is this bike lane going to look like? How is this going to work? Those details haven't been worked out yet, but this basically provides a blueprint or a guideline or a vision for the city to build a complete pedestrian and bicycle network. Now, how we get there, that remains to be seen. And that's why these pedestrian and bicycle master plans are updated every 5 years, because things change, economics change, certain projects get built, and based on that, we look to how we modify the vision going forward.
And my last question is a follow-up to Councilmember Viveros Walton. It's primarily because I didn't quite understand the answer of where you were going with this concept of I think the right term is shared lane, if you can. But it looks like that sole path, right, all by itself out in the wilderness. Is that a shared use path? Is that the right term? So I want to make sure that because I think there was a little bit of blending of terminology. So I want to make sure we're all using the same language. Shared use path.
Yeah, so the shared use path, this is an example of the Bay Trail today on the bottom right corner.
Now, if I understood correctly, and I'm going to look to you for a little bit of a head nod, I think your question was, what does a shared use path look like in a neighborhood? Is that the essence of your question?
Yeah, and in a highly trafficked part of STDO, like what would that look like there?
Okay. And so I think I heard the answer, but I didn't quite understand the answer. So I kind of want to dig in some more, because when I think of these shared use paths, I think of Bay Trail, think about what we had conceptualized for the railroad tracks that run next to the BART station. What if we could get control of those tracks and pave them over and create a shared use path that's really, there are no cars around. But it sounds like you're actually thinking about that in neighborhoods. So I'm trying to understand how that works as a practical matter if you've got this genuinely isolated space and yet you need people coming out of driveways, and how is it different in a neighborhood than, let's say, a separated bike lane?
I'll take that, Mayor. Jason, my city engineer again. Yeah, we apologize. The shared use path that's seen on slide, 19 in the bottom right, that is in a rural area, but the shared use path doesn't have to be in a rural area. The shared use path just means that it's wide enough and designed so that it can accommodate multiple modes, pedestrians and bicyclists. That's all the shared path really means. And the width is the primary design aspect. There are actually several different examples of the Bay Trail in residential areas. And basically what that looks like is a very wide sidewalk. Maybe a 10 to 12 foot sidewalk. It's usually separated from the road with a planter strip because you would not want the path right next adjacent to the vehicular traffic. But the Bay Trail does have design guidelines based on width, based on clear zone on each side, but they've been successfully incorporated in multiple instances in residential areas as well.
Perfect. Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll take public comment if we've got any on this item.
Mr. Mayor, it looks like we have one public comment in person and we have 2 online. Yes. Yes, we can. So we have 2 in person and 2 online.
Okay, please proceed in person.
Leo West?
Bicyclists have no right to be on the road. They don't pay for a license plate or a driver license or insurance. The biggest danger to pedestrians are the bikers on the sidewalks. They use their freeways by intimidation. This city has built miles of bike lanes to put cars out of the street, but you seldom see a biker on those lanes. They ride on the sidewalks and the bus lanes in the middle of the street against the traffic, and they don't stop at the red lights either. Then there are also those gangs of bikers parading right in front of the police department. They are not here today. They don't care about your rules. You can do whatever you want in writing. Thanks to a city council that builds a monument to a criminal and declares San Leandro a sanctuary city for this type of individual. This is not vision zero, but zero vision. Stop fiddling around and write an ordinance that start confiscating the bikes of all of the violators of traffic laws. Where's the police department? No more cyclists on the sidewalk. Cars have been confined to a single lane with traffic lights every couple of blocks. So much for caring for the environment with all that traffic congestion. As I said, those gangs of bikers don't care about what you write, your rules. The police department doesn't care. They're riding in front of the police department, right on the sidewalks, right here in front of this building.
Thank you. Darlene Evans?
If I took 20-year increments, the first 20 would be in Oakland, within a block, railroad, a park, and a dead-end street with bridges and a creek. I did not like what I heard tonight earlier about the Lake Shippo Road. Is there anything being done? I mean, you've had other meetings, but I haven't been there to protect the existing roadway that's failed. And there's going to be a winner before that. I liked what he said of 2 words, insurance and license. I've been a pedestrian and known as a bicycle, even had one that was given to me by the city, stolen while I was pulling weeds in my local neighborhood. What else is new? Here's the thing, is that you spend the money and over on the San Leandro Boulevard, I don't know what they're had. Sometimes I don't have the names of things well done, but they had things that were like posts. And I had to call the police department because a lady had a child and she came late at night and she didn't know that they were there. And it had the green thing on the roadway. And she didn't expect that. They never put those back up. We had a whole bunch of redwood trees on San Leandro Boulevard cut down because I think, but I don't know, that in case of a fire or something, they would mess up the roadway because they're not there anymore. And the city has got so much stuff in debt, and yet I cannot cross 136th Street without having to go clean up the yellow pads for the handicap. People don't respect that. It took 4 months for anybody to do things over there.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, there's no more public comment in person, so we will go online.
Please proceed.
Debbie, you may unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Debbie Canning and I live on Bancroft. And I'm happy to hear the words that you're still going to be taking some ideas. I went to your initial rally over there on Victoria and I complained about my access. We're talking about safety of the bike riders. We're talking about safety of pedestrians. How about the homeowners that's paid over 34 years property taxes in San Leandro? And I'm concerned about how I'm going to get in and out of my driveway. The way it is now with the one lane each side of the street and the center lane there at Bancroft, it seems that I can, get out of it between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, forget about it. You're waiting for somebody to let you out. So I'd almost have to back in my driveway and then try and get out. When you take away that center lane, the traffic's going to get even worse. We live between Glen and Big Air. Okay. And so I'm very concerned. You're talking about putting that cement. Originally, there was no parking on our block. I've been looking everywhere to see your updated plan, to see if you added at least a parking space. We have 2 cars. We have a single car driveway. I mean, where am I going to park my car? I'm going to park across the street, and then I got to be the pedestrian trying to come across Bancroft with my groceries, with my things. So I hope that you do answer emails. I don't know. I've sent emails. I've done phone calls. I've never heard anything. But my concern is for the safety of everyone, including the homeowners. And how are they going to get in and out of their driveways with that cement divide? If there's no parking on one side of the street, drive down Bancroft in the morning and see all the cars that are parked on Bancroft. Where are they supposed to go? So again, as a taxpayer, I'm hoping that at some point you'll take a look at the safety of the driveways on Bancroft and how the people are going to get in and out. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Lucas, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my comment. I want to call and voice my strongest support in favor of this proposed bikeway network and the updates being proposed to the 2018 plan. I've called many times before about how much I think the city needs to invest in a truly connected bikeway infrastructure. Check out countries like Denmark and the Netherlands and Belgium and Switzerland, and they do magical things where 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds drive across whole cities filled with millions of people all on their own to get to elementary school. I want to draw the council's attention to the recommendations and best practices on page 82 of the PDF. Those are also reproduced on slide 7 of the presentation. There it talks about how streets with speed limit greater than 26 miles per hour, they should all have protected bicycle lanes. Streets with less than 25 miles per hour but large car traffic volumes should also all have protected bicycle lanes. Protected bicycle lanes are the safest solution. Yes, they're very expensive. But then I look at slide 15 in the presentation and what the city has actually built since 2018. 11 miles of new bike routes, but most of them are just like the little decal that shows the bicycle and says share the road. We've only built 1 mile of new separated bikeways since 2018's plan, 1 mile per 6 years. On page 23 of the presentation, it lists that we will need 34.5 miles of separated protected bikeways to complete this plan. At a rate of 6 years per mile, this plan will be completed in 200 years, and according to the cost estimate, at a cost of $500 million. I look forward to the conclusion of this project. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Douglas Spalding, you may unmute yourself.
Well, I guess we can celebrate at the tricentennial, San Leander's tricentennial there for all the protected bikeways. I'm very appreciative of all the work of staff on this, as well as organizations such as Project 2050 and all the individuals who have advocated for increased bike and use in pedestrian right-of-ways. We need fewer cars in the world, not more. We have a global warming climate change crisis, and it's largely due to all the exhaust emissions from combustion engines and industry. So any incentives we can provide and safety, I think, would be paramount among them. I think are all for the greater good. I realize this is a long marathon process. It's going to take a long time to transform our city, but this notion that I pay my taxes and therefore I should get to drive my car and do what I want with my car and park my car wherever. Bicyclists also pay taxes if you're an adult, so come off it. And it's a simple matter of physics. There's a little thing called momentum, Momentum is a product of mass times velocity. And car versus bicycle, the car weighs a hell of a lot more and usually is going much faster. And so the bicyclist is going to be worse for the wear. We do need to protect bicyclists. Again, thank you for all your work. And, if anything, I say, the car owners should be paying higher registration and more money for their licenses in order to have this privilege of driving around. And yes, I drive my car, but I try to reduce use as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and then come back for discussion on this item for council member commentary. Councilmember Viveros Walton.
Thank you. I just continued, and I misspoke earlier. I kept saying Lake Chabot Road, but it's actually the portion that is recommended to be a used share path. It's actually the Estudillo portion before it becomes Lake Chabot, so apologies. But even then, I'm still concerned because the part of Estudillo that feeds into the freeway on Benedict is so high trafficked and it's so unsafe. And I'm surprised it's not a hotspot actually, in terms of vehicular collisions. And I do see people on bikes going up and down on that portion of Estudillo. So I just continue to be concerned about that portion of Estudillo being a shared use path, and especially also in the neighborhood that it feeds into Chabot Park. So I just wanted to end with that comment. But overall, I'm in agreement with the street design principles, the bicycle design principle, and the pedestrian design guidelines as a plan. Appreciate all of your work. I know it's years in the making for all of the folks who've been on BayPAC. Thank you so much. I'll just leave it at that, and then I'll just leave the rest for my colleagues to also comment.
Councilmember Baloo, please.
Mr. Mayor, I was in the queue alone for a minute, so I was actually going to move the item. I'll move to item 10A.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I'd like to second it and then also thank staff and the public. Awesome job. I'm really excited about this plan and keep up the good work, everybody. Good job.
Okay, seeing no others, I'd just like to add a few comments. First, I think it's really important to be clear, transparent about the maintenance costs. I think that was an issue that was raised and it's not at all presented here. So I think that's paramount. I know that when we talked about the bike lanes, at one of the facilities committee meetings, we talked about, but if they're this width, then you have to buy specialty equipment to make sure you clear the leaves from the gutters and blah, blah, blah. So whatever all those things are, having a good understanding of that, I think is useful. And then to let us make those explicit trade-offs. If you do it this way, it will cost you this to maintain it, so that we can actually have a choice in how we choose to, do we choose to invest now or later? That's number one. The second thought I kind of foreshadowed in the questions, namely to one of our public commenters, the concept of momentum. Yes, car versus bike. Then there's bike and car versus human. And I think that there, again, a growing body of literature around the dangers that pedestrians face. And we cannot underestimate when you just go anywhere, just stand and just watch. Do you see more people walking or more people biking? And overall, I think that the number of injuries that come and they're impacting pedestrians is simply greater. And so if we're going to go invest money because we're trying to bring about Vision Zero, some of those changes may be relatively simple. I'll give you one simple example. I was crossing at the intersection of Parrott and Washington. That intersection is poorly lit. A car literally stopped and drove right in front of me as I was crossing the crosswalk. It was dark. And it doesn't surprise me that they couldn't see me with the absence of like what I call real intersection light. So if there are things that are high value wins, I think that we should spend a disproportionate amount of energy on getting those rapid wins. Can we cut in half our death rate with improved lighting and spend $5 million instead of $500 million? And so I would ask that when we think as being stewards of the taxpayers' money, that we think about what are those things and really get digging into that root cause analysis of why did those accidents happen? And some of it, I think I mentioned this at facilities because I think we talked about this very issue, this notion of if spending $200,000 on an education campaign of don't wear dark colors at night would cut fatalities in half, then that's the best $200,000 that we're spending. And while right now, under the Biden administration, there's been tremendous money for building bikeways, I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case with the Trump administration. If it is, that's great. That's awesome. I think that we have to be very careful about what we're assuming the opportunities will be for us from a funding perspective. And so let's just make sure that we're not stuck in this is what we're going to do. And that's why I asked you if it was conceptual, because I understand that it's conceptual. What we're really going for is the objective is let's emphasize keeping pedestrians, bicyclists safe. That's aligned to our Vision Zero. I agree with Councilmember Voters Walton. The concepts are clear, the objectives are clear. I really appreciate the financial analysis. But let's use that financial analysis to then build out our priorities in terms of reducing fatalities and serious injuries. I think I've got a motion from Blue with a second from the Vice Mayor. If there's no further discussion, let's vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 601 with Councilmember Bowen absent.
Okay. So at this point in time, what I'd like to be able to do is take a quick break, maybe 5-7 minutes, just a bio break. But Councilmember Blue.
Calling on the orders of the day, I have a question for the city manager with apologies to our building official, Michael Jeffries. Is there anything preventing us from tabling item 10B until the next meeting?
Actually, I need to defer that question to our building official, Mike Jeffries.
The issue I have is with the break, and when we come back, we're going to be at 10:20 before, well, if we approve an extension before we get to item 8, 9, 10, 11, or 10, 11, and 12, and 13. And I know there's some items that are going to, I mean, we've gone 2 meetings now without reporting on NLC, which means we don't get reimbursed for that, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I do because I put in a written thing, but others may not if they didn't put in a written report. So I don't know what the council's will is, whether they want to consider tabling that or move on through the night.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a bio break? Because it's been almost 3 full hours. Let's do a bio break. We'll come back. We can take this issue up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it is 9:50 and we are reassembling. Okay, so it is 9:51. We are back in session. Councilmember Viveros Walton.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:30.
Councilmember Aguilar.
Second.
We have a motion to extend to 10:30 and from Councilmember Viveros Walton, second from Aguilar. Please vote.
Mayor, I was hoping to make a friendly amendment to that.
I understand it from the parliamentarian that it's not a discussable motion.
End it? I can't make a friendly amendment?
There is a motion, a second, and it's not discussable.
All votes are in. Motion passes 4-1 with Councilmember Baloo voting no and Vice Mayor Simon voting no and Councilmember Bowen absent.
Okay, so at this time, let's move to item 10B.
Sorry. No, my name. IT, can you come fix the computer?
Good evening, City Council, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Mayor, City Attorney. My name is Mike Jeffrey. I'm the building official here for the City of San Leandro. To bring you the first reading of our soft story retrofit ordinance. Back in 2007, the city performed an extensive soft stories survey. We compiled a detailed inventory of 368 potentially hazardous soft story buildings with over 4,000 units, primarily residential, but a few commercial too. I will say at this point that I've been fine tuning that list based on this ordinance, and there are some that we can already take off the registry, which will lessen the burden of the whole carrying out this ordinance. So, for example, there are some condominium unit buildings that have underfloor parking that aren't at grade. They're halfway below grade, which tends to strengthen up the lateral resistance. So they are really not soft stories. So we're able to pull those out of the registry and lighten up this number a little bit. I don't know that approximate number, but it's definitely going to be helpful. A soft story building is like these photos here. You just look at those buildings and you know that they're inherently weak. It doesn't take a structural engineer with all the belongings, the weight of the building, the people that inhabit, makes these very top heavy and then just creates a lot of lateral force, running down these columns. And the tendency for them to pretty much lean over is extreme. And as you guys drive through the city, you've probably seen several of these. The consequences of a soft story collapse are injuries and fatalities, and that's really no exaggeration. We have past history, Northridge, Loma Prieta, and so on. Loss of housing, economic repercussions, and property damage. The buildings, crushed vehicles, as this photo here, and then the utilities, gas, electric, water, and sewer, which lend their own particular issues. Gas lines erupting, natural gas, electric arcing to ignite the gas, water, no inherent danger there except for the electricity. If the wires are laying in the water, more conductive. And then, of course, biohazard with sewer. We did do quite a bit of public outreach, did rules committees meetings held in 23 and 24. And then in 24, July of 24, rules directed staff to prepare this ordinance for council review. Community meetings were held in summer of 2024, one via Zoom, one in person at the main library. And then off that master list, we established a mailing list with all 368 impacted property owners, along with other housing owner associations, such as below here. Summary of the proposed ordinance applies to all wood-framed residential buildings, 5 or more units permitted before January 1st of 1985. And these are all on the existing city soft story inventory list. Mandatory requirements: engineering, screening, seismic structural analysis, installation of earthquake actuated gas shutoff valves within 60 days of notice, and notification to all building tenants, posting warnings in buildings. Timeframe up to, and we'll get more into the details of these timeframes, up to 18 months compliance period for mandatory screening. And fees: building will establish a new engineering report review fee in the annual master fee schedule approved by City Council. Incentives to retrofit. After completing, and these are incentives that us as the building department will offer. After completing mandatory engineering screening, includes financial relief for building permit inspection fees. So the permit, the review, and also inspection fees. 100% waive for reports submitted within 6 months of the official notice on the city inventory list. 50% reduction within 12 months, and then drops down to 25% reduction within 18 months. Included in this is an appeal process. Just like any other appeal, 60 days to challenge determination of soft story status to the building official. Appeals of the building official final decision to the Board of Appeals. Board of Appeal exists under the municipal code for building permit concerns, and the board consists of 3 city manager appointed management staff from various city departments, including staff with expertise in civil engineering and building. Next steps: staff recommends approval of the first reading of the ordinance, post second reading at December 16th City Council meeting. Staff outreach implementation from January to May of 2025. We'll prepare public information for affected property owners and post on the city website. Courtesy notice on the new ordinance, public info and warning of the forthcoming formal notice, and issuance of a formal notice that property is on the city inventory. I still have a little bit of time. In what we will end up doing, if let's just say back in 2007, some were misidentified as a soft story, we will be pulling them off during our review process from now till ordinance time, and then also notifying those said folks. Hopefully it's a decent amount that get shaved off, but I don't anticipate any more than maybe 10%. That's it. And we do have our consultant, Greg McFan. He's a retired chief building official for the city of Alameda, who actually implemented his own soft story ordinance some years back. So if you have any, we'll have any questions, me and Greg answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Let's go with Councilmember Viveros Walton first.
I wanted to elevate an concern we got over email regarding shut-off valves. Is on the mandatory requirement, I'm looking at slide 6 of the presentation. Is the installation of the gas shut-off valves, is that per unit or for the building? How does that work?
Well, yeah, I did look at that email, and it did raise a question as to whether you could do it on the utility side with one large shut-off valve, which I understand PG&E does not allow, but we're looking more into that because I think it is allowed, which is the easier way. The other option, let's say there's 40 units and you put a valve on each meter. That's great, but during an earthquake, let's say, this building's characteristic, the way it's designed, is shaking more on one end and it shuts 10 of them off, but it doesn't shut the other 30 off. So you still have that thread of gas. Ideally, you'd want to cut it off at the source, and then thus eliminating chance of ignition and fire. And that's one of the more prominent problems after an earthquake is there's the fire afterwards, explosion, fire, so on. So that will be determined as we develop this.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. I just have one question. Has there been any instances in San Leandro where there's been a soft story collapse in the history that you know of in the '89 earthquake or anything?
No.
That's good. We want to keep it that way.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. Thank you for the presentation. With regards to the fees, can you explain that process here? You indicated on I think it's the second slide. No. Anyways, the time frame, 100% waiver for 6 months, 50% for 12, and then 25% for the remainder 6.
Yep, exactly.
Or, and I know we're discussing fees, but what can we expect ballpark?
Well, these are based on valuation. So that would vary, if we're talking 5 units, for a retrofit, it's pretty minimal. But if we're talking, we did one on Callan that was 80 units, and I think that job was about $400,000. So it gets into the thousands of dollars. What we're hoping is just economy of scale. We do have a budgeted, approved engineer plan reviewer that we haven't hired yet, but the way we're going to handle it internally is a very cost-effective way. And so we feel that this is an incentive, and we kind of mirrored this off of Alameda with a success rate of 64% in the first 18 months was very successful. So we're trying to incentivize with very minimal mandatory items listed, the gas shutoff valve. If you go beyond that 18 months, we're going to require signage, which we'll have to craft that gets put in the lobby or on the building, that this building is seismically unsafe. So that's kind of the incentive to get it done in that 18 months. But as far as building permit fees, it'll vary greatly from size of project.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to, you mentioned at a success rate of 3%.
No.
Do we know what contributed to that?
Well, I think they started off a little bit. We do have, hey, Jim, this is jammed up again. You want to come back out? Oh, he must have fixed it. Hang on. Let me look at the. So if you remember in rules, we had a cost comparison. They started off, and Greg can help me on this one, a little more punitive, a little more strong-armed at the beginning. I think that's what kind of dissuaded folks from doing it, started it off in the first place. So we're going with success, and success just happens to be very similar to what Greg implemented in Alameda.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
I would just add to, based on the table that was included in attachment, Hayward didn't allow for any exemptions or accommodations. So that could have been a factor too for people.
Right. Right.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tom.
Seeing no other questions, a couple of from me. I notice you focus on wood frame buildings in particular. Soft story construction, is it just by definition, you wouldn't see that with a steel framed building, or it is that much safer?
Depends on the construction. We probably would not see it in older multifamily construction steel, which just by its nature would be stronger, but it also depends on age and how it was designed and what code they were going by at the time. So it's not necessarily better, than wood, but it really depends on era of construction.
But this is limited to wood frame construction.
Yes, this is limited, yes.
The older permits, pre-1985, is it, what's the reason for that?
That is a combination of the three cities that we looked at. 85 seemed to be a commonality where from that point on, engineering became a little more conservative, more restrictive, and things were just frankly built better at that time. So it was the cities that we used, Alameda and Hayward, same type of geographical conditions in relationship to the fault lines. We're subject to liquefaction here. And that was just the perfect age of home to set this ordinance up on.
And is it fair to say that in your inventory, you don't have soft story buildings post that date, or you do have them, but you just think that they're stronger?
Yes, if they're built after 1985, they're definitely stronger.
Okay, but do you think we have some inventory post 85 that are soft story?
I'm sure we do, and they'll be evaluated by their engineers. Some of them might be easy to determine that they are not a soft story, and I'll eliminate them from the registry as we go.
Okay, because I'll get to comments later. So the as I understand it, we are, as part of the things that we're requiring, would require notice on the building, correct?
Right.
Like essentially, this is a soft story building that may collapse in an earthquake.
Right. Right.
Occupant beware.
Yeah.
Okay. In formulating this and looking at other cities, did we consider some sort of written signature page required from tenants saying, I acknowledge that I am occupying a soft tenant building, a soft story building that may collapse in an earthquake?
Mhm.
We did not. Just to be curious to know how we thought about that.
Not necessarily, as with, let's just use a condominium project. That's ownership. So things like this have to be disclosed at sale, such as anything else, termite report, roof report, and so on. But on apartments, that's up to the landlord or the owner, the lessor, to the lessee for them to structure their lease contract.
I think that's something that we did not consider.
No, okay.
Those are my questions. Vice Mayor, please.
I have a question on what are you requiring them to design to? Like if the building code changes in 10 years and is no longer meeting seismic code, do you re-have them meet the new code or?
Well, good question. There's two answers there. One is we're using Chapter A4 of the California existing building code. So engineers will go to that section and prove or disprove that this is a soft story. So they're going to use that as datum, as their build point, either determine that it's falls into or design soft story retrofit to fall into the sections in Chapter A4. Now, we do have a clause in there that, and you're right, you know, if there's a big improvement on a building, a lot of new codes kick in, but there's going to be, is it a 10 or 15? 15-year exemption to that. So that does not dissuade them to pull permits to do a major improvement, such as, you know, replace all the glazing in a 50-unit apartment complex. So we don't want that to happen to where we're going to come in and say, well, now you've got to upgrade to today's code. So there's that safeguard for that too. So there's another kind of incentive that they're safe to be able to do their improvements, not stop doing improvements, because it's a continuum taking care of these buildings. Balconies, for example, the, you know, windows, the things that wear out over years. So we want them to keep doing that. So we want to make sure there's a time frame in there where it doesn't kick any, you know, extra improvements out over and above what we're asking for.
Thank you.
Councilmember Aguilar, please.
Thank you, Mayor Gonzalez. I know that you know, there are fees involved with retrofitting and coming into code with the soft story ordinance. Are there any programs that are available to help subsidize, or is that an option that we can provide folks to say, this is something that you can apply for?
Yeah, we did a look through and didn't see any at present, but anything regarding housing and subsidies or grants or something, I'd like Tom to speak on.
Yeah, I would just say, and with our consultant looking at other cities, we didn't really find any soft story grant programs per se. Part of the incentives, excuse me, lie here is in the discounts that we can offer. As Mike mentioned, the discounts come in the building permit side, which depending on the size of the building could be anywhere from thousands to $10,000 of savings potentially to incentivize people to come in earlier. The other route potentially would be if you were to access federal or state housing money. But as you know, there would be stipulations. So that would then require the landlord or housing provider probably commit a certain percentage of the unit to be affordable. It would be kind of like a rehab program that could include soft story, but there would need to be a commitment because of usually state and federal requirements for long-term affordability. For example, if it were a rental building, they would need to commit to something.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll go to public comment at this time. Do we have any?
Mr. Mayor, we have one public comment in person and 2 online. Mike Katz-Lakabe. And we have a second one in person.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and members of the public. We're still here. My name is Mike Katz-Lakabe. I am genuinely excited about tonight's agenda for the first reading of an ordinance on seismic retrofit of soft story construction ordinance. As elected officials, this will likely be the single most important action you take to protect lives during your political careers. After every major earthquake, we learn how to better prepare for and prevent deaths from earthquakes. On January 17th, 1994, a magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck the San Fernando Valley in Southern California. 16 people were killed in the collapse of Northridge Meadows apartment complex. That apartment complex featured soft story construction, in which a building's ground level has a large open area typically used for parking. More than 30 years later, San Leandro's a bit tardy in implementing an ordinance requiring such a seismic retrofit for buildings using soft story construction. The city, however, was aware enough of the dangers of soft story construction that we did the inventory back in 2007. And honestly, that was kind of ahead of its time. We were ahead of things at that point. And that survey identified 368 potentially hazardous buildings, as Mike said. That impacts more than 4,000 units of housing. That action, but an inventory is only useful when combined with an ordinance. And that's why we're here tonight for this item. Berkeley and San Francisco implemented their soft story seismic retrofit ordinances in 2013, Alameda in 2009, and Oakland in 2019. I want to give my sincere thanks and gratitude to the city staff who helped make this happen, and the city council members who listened to me over the years, and it has been a few, and supported this work.
Thank you. Your time
Thank you.
is up. Darlene Evans.
There was a summer that I attended an event, and 6 of us ended up in the lobby of the San Leandro High School, and I live across the street. Both of these buildings had the exit signs dangle from the earthquake. So I've been a little bit concerned because of the $5 million gymnasium that got built nearby. I left a message on the voicemail that turned into the email to District 2. It hasn't been listened to because of password situation. I talked to, because of the generosity of the city manager and the smarts of the mayor, the fire department. They did absolutely nothing in the more than 2 months. They didn't see, all I wanted them to do was to see about the permits for the fire department connection in case there were a fire, because it's been more than 5 months since I called East Bay Mud because it was leaking, and they hired a guy. And he's security because you can swim whatever you want if it gets too much wetter over there. We found the red binder at the secure space that has a fire department connection. They didn't even know they had it, red book. 2 people got fired. Randy Hillman is the regional guy of 90 Places. And the thing is that it's still not fixed. And we don't even know about the permit situation. We don't know, as I learned something tonight, on appeal, it would go to the Board of Appeals. So maybe that's where this thing is going. But the soft story next to Barbalee, there's a soft story over there, because I pull the weeds over there and I see that. The building that I'm in is 50 years old.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Mayor, we will now go online. Mike Stanley, you may unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I went ahead and submitted my opposition via email, which I believe was referred to earlier. So I'm going to just summarize this real quick. I live in a 45-unit condominium in San Leandro, and we have been identified as being a soft story. This ordinance, while well-intended, no doubt, will result in a significant decrease in the property value and place an immediate and substantial financial burden on everyone affected in our building. It could very well cause a bankruptcy or displacement of some of the elderly and other people in our building. And those are the people you're supposed to be protecting. The 45 households struggle to maintain a financial balance to improve the property and keep pace with inflation and monthly expenses. We have a large loan right now to advance repairs that we're already doing. We're lucky to be able to get insurance right now as the state of insurance in California, and to continue to save for ongoing component replacements. I noticed that San Leandro's plan is based on Alameda, the city of Alameda's plan. And on one of those slides, it says that it was implemented in 2009 and now has a 63% retrofit rate. That's in 15 years. And I believe Mr. Jeffrey said it was over 18 months. So I would encourage you to take a look at, is it the financial ability of people to do it or their willingness to do it? Because we're willing to do it, but you have to take into consideration that we have to afford other things as well. The other thing is the PG&E gas shutoff valves. As I'm running out of time, I talked to PG&E today. It does have to be per meter. That's 46 meter installations we have to do in our building within 60 days per your ordinance.
Thank you. Your time is up. Harold Roundtree, you may unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Harold Roundtree, and I am a property owner in
San Leandro, and I just wanted the council to be aware, as a property owner of a 5+ unit building, in the market today, the insurance, many insurers have left California. And it so happens I was insured with State Farm. They said, as a result of the liability, they were exiting the market. The COVID situation with tenants that had not paid has put an undue burden on making owning rental property in California very troublesome. And these kinds of decisions will force people to exit this market. And that can have a profound impact on housing for the city of San Leandro if more people are leaving and not willing to pay for that. I know it's a great real estate market in California today, but I think these are some headwinds that I would ask that the council consider the timing. I think you talked about some of the other cities. These were pre-COVID situations. We're just now getting rid of, we just now are mitigating some of the losses for tenants that did not pay for years. Please take into consideration insurance costs, non-payment, deferred maintenance for property owners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Douglas Spalding, you may unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. We ought not pat ourselves on the back that there haven't been any building collapses in recent memory, unless we go all the way back to 1868. The thing we need to prepare for is a rupture on the Hayward earthquake, and that was the last time we had a big one on this side of the bay. I think the arguments about property values and insurance don't make a lot of sense to me. To me, this is a common sense ordinance. Ensuring that soft structures are reinforced will make property more insurable. And if they're not reinforced and they go down in an earthquake, well, the property value is close to zilch. I think it would make sense to implement some caveat, some part of this ordinance in the appeal process, whereby, I am persuaded by the gentleman who lives in the condominium. The two speakers ago, there might be special circumstances. So maybe, if owner could sit down with the city and come up with a plan, like, we can't pay for all this right now, but this is our 5-year plan or 10-year plan, maybe that would make sense. I selfishly want to understand the limits of this program. I understand this is for dwellings of 5 or more units. I'm in a single family household, but it is a soft story. It was built in 1941. It was built well. But I applied to Earthquake Brace and Bolt and got that many years in a row. But now I'm doing a dance between them and my absentee co-owner who won't make any improvements on the home. And I can't do the Brace and Bolt until I protect my soft story. And I can't protect the soft story until I do some engineering solution because I'm on the crest of a hill. So I made a San Leandro Plan A plan a long time ago, but will there be some allowance in the future for single homeowners under this program?
Thank you.
Doing it.
Mr. Mayor, there is no more public comment.
Okay, so I'll close public comment, come back to our council members. Councilmember Viveros Walton.
I'd like to make a motion to, actually, I have a question. Are we able to put a motion to extend time right now? Yes, we can. I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:45, please.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion from Viveros Walton, second from Aguilar. Please vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes. I have to do math. 5-1 with Councilmember Baloo voting no and Councilmember Bowen absent.
Okay, Councilmember Viveros Walton.
I'd like to make a motion to move, hold on.
Move the item.
Yes, move the item.
Then
10B.
Then Councilmember Aguilar, please.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 601 with Councilmember Bowen absent.
Okay, moving to item number 11, council request to schedule agenda items. Vice Mayor, please.
Yes, my request is to bring to full council on January 21st, 2025 for discussion of the same presentation provided on April 2024 to the Rules Committee plus Mission Bay's 4-point mobile home ordinance modification proposal.
So to be clear, because you're picking a date specific, this is an urgent referral? I might not have heard that.
Yes, this is an urgent referral.
Okay. Councilmember Azevedo, please.
Yes, I'll second this.
Councilmember Blue.
I just have a question of the city attorney, whether this type of request rises to the level of the threshold for an urgent referral. I thought it had to be an immediate public health hazard or something.
Yes, please. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Baloo, through the chair. Under the city council members handbook, city council handbook, and it's on page 14. Items referred by council as urgent matters must meet the following criteria and be defined as part of the referral. The criteria for urgency is defined as an action necessary to immediately preserve life, health, and safety of the community, or failure to respond in an expeditious manner could result in harmful legislative or financial consequences for the city. When we have here is that there must be the following criteria be defined as part of the referral. I don't see specifically, I think the city manager has the specific language of the referral that she can point to. But the criteria for urgency is an action necessary to immediately preserve the life, health, and safety of the community, or failure to respond in an expeditious manner could result in harmful legislative or financial consequences for the city. I would look to the city manager. Are there facts to support that for the council to make that finding?
I don't think that answers my question. Does it rise to the, based on the whatever's written? I had it a couple of weeks ago, but whatever's written in your opinion, does that rise to the level of the threshold of urgency?
I think if we put it on the record to state, I think city manager has it. You wouldn't mind reading it into the record, I suppose.
So let's start with the basics. And I know that there are limits on what we can discuss. So, guide us through this. Are there facts that suggest that there is an immediate danger, or whatever the magic language is, clear and present danger to life and human safety? I'm going to go to city manager and then perhaps council member if he's got some additional, or vice mayor if he's got additional information.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have information that lets me know that there's an immediate risk to preserve life, health, and safety of the community.
So at this point in time, then I will go back to Vice Mayor to help us understand what that data is on urgency.
Okay, well, first, one question is to the city attorney, the council would decide if this is a urgent matter, correct? This is a council vote. If this is an urgent matter.
In order to establish criteria of an urgency, the council, according to its own rules, has to say that this is an action as defined as necessary to immediately preserve the life, health, and safety of the community.
Okay. So this is my reason. It's necessary to immediately preserve the life, health, and safety of the community by addressing the high rental costs and other rental impediments so that mobile home tenants and owners are not at risk of being left without shelter, risking their life, health, and safety. And my understanding is the council would vote to decide that. They believe that. In addition to my request.
If that is according to, again, the council's rules, then that's the criteria have been met. And you're saying that that's as defined as part of the referrals, what you just stated.
Correct.
That's the basis of your referral.
Yes.
I leave it to the council to decide whether that's what you wish to advance as an urgent referral, whether you consider it urgent.
At this point in time, I will go to Councilmember Azevedo.
I got a question, for the city attorney. My understanding right, so the city handbook, if we get 5 votes, then it overrules it anyways, right? Instead of the referral thing. If you just get 4 votes, then it goes as a referral. But if you get 5 votes, then it goes over the handbook. Is that true or my?
No, an urgent referral requires 5 votes.
Okay. So it's 5 votes. No
By the way,
Okay.
does that answer your question, Councilmember Azevedo?
Yeah, that answers my question. I didn't know if it was 4 votes and then, but if we have 5 votes, then we can overrule if it's what we consider emergency or whatever.
But an urgency referral requires
Those people
also.
in those mobile home parks, Trailer Haven, their rent's going up to $1,100 from $800 to $1,100, 20%. So I consider that really important. Okay. So.
Okay, Councilmember Aguilar.
Thank you, Mayor. What Vice Mayor Simon had mentioned, I believe is an urgency that is sufficient to make a second to that motion.
Councilmember Baloo.
Thank you. So I heard the councilman, through the chair, I heard the councilman talk about the mobile park half of the presentation to rules on whatever date that was, but the presentation to rules on that date was more than that. It would have to be bifurcated, or there would need to be some additional information indicating the urgency of the rest of the presentation, which was somewhat long on the non-mobile home park with a lot of data. And so is there anything that could be presented to the council as a whole so that we might?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I will interrupt you. I'm trying to be polite about this. We have to be very careful about too much discussion.
I understand that. I'm asking if there's something that can help me understand the threshold for life threatening and hazard from that meeting, because I was in attendance at that meeting and I don't see it. So I'm asking if the council member that's putting this forward can present any data on the other half, not just the mobile home half of that, and would remind the council that all of those meetings are recorded and anybody can listen to them at any time.
Okay, before going there, I think I'd like to hear from our housing team if we can. Mr. Liao, I'm going to ask this through you, city manager, but the basic question is to understand the risk of evictions. Like, do we have some sense on the number of people that are being evicted? Is it like
We don't
tens,
have any
hundreds, thousands?
specific data such to supporting that at this point.
Okay. Now, all council members know this. Now, I'm trying to be very sensitive here, so please tell me if I'm stepping out of bounds.
Sure.
We have programs in place. We have an organization, Centro Legal de la Raza, that helps people. Are we capacity constrained? Are we turning away people that come to us for help?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to Vice Mayor to better understand. I'm trying to put the pieces together, particularly because we're trying to decide if this is urgent or just a regular referral. Does it talked about on February 1st or January 21st? If you can kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Well, I guess my concern is that this is turning into a discussion. This is item 11, and my understanding is I've read the urgency, I've read the criteria for it, And I am concerned this is becoming quite a discussion.
Okay. And I think that's a fair concern. So I'm going
I'd like to call the question.
I'm going to come back to legal counsel. I'm coming back to legal counsel because I do want a legal interpretation, because facts have been presented. There can always be more facts. But the threshold question of whether this legally complies with what's written in the council member handbook, and whether you call it legally or just with the words, I want to get your legal opinion.
So the the question is the urgency, and does this request meet the criteria and be defined as part of the referral? The criteria for urgency is, again, an action necessary to immediately preserve the life, health, and safety of the community. The council, as a body, needs to decide whether there are enough facts in the referral as defined as part of the referral to decide whether there's an urgency, there's urgency there. I think your staff have already stated through your community development director, the city manager, we don't have any facts. Now, the council member is making a statement. He believes I'm saying this. There may be facts in his statement, but your staff, who you've charged to ascertain and research the facts, don't have facts.
Okay. So thank you for your legal input. The question has been called. Please vote.
All votes are in, motion ties 3-3 with Councilmember Bowen absent, so it does not pass.
Okay, so the motion fails. At this point in time, we will go to item number, or are there any other 11 referrals? Let's go to item 12. Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor, do you have an item 12? No worries. Councilmember Blue.
I'd like to move that we extend the meeting to 10:45.
I'll
I
second.
think we already have.
He did.
We did that.
Oh, I thought it was 10:40. My bad. Okay. I just want to report I went to the National League of Cities City Summit, and in the previous meeting, I submitted my report with written comments to the city clerk to be included in the record of the last meeting's minutes. And that's my report.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Azevedo.
Okay, I attended the National League of City in Tampa Bay the week of November 11th. I attended several meetings. Two of them I was really fascinated with. One was a meeting about the AI in regards to traffic congestion. AI can now identify in a crosswalk whether it's a senior or someone in a wheelchair, and it can adjust the time accordingly. AI can also scan and get data from all our intersections and see which ones have the most red light runners and adjust the opposite way traffic signals to stay red longer. And this reduces T-bone accidents. Another meeting was about volunteerism, and everybody knows that's dear to my heart. There's a platform out there, it's called Just Serve. It's a platform where everyone could sign up to volunteer or put a volunteer opportunity. Anyone could get volunteers. If someone wants to move gravel in their backyard, they can get volunteers, or any city government or schools. If the city needed people to plant trees, or a school needed someone to do trunk or treat, they can just sign up on this platform, and it's really helpful. And they're doing it in Utah, and they're using it in other cities, I believe in California. But the example was in Utah when it was raining, they got over 1,000 people to volunteer. So I learned a lot of National Leagues of Cities. And then on November 18th, I attended the EBDA meeting, the Operation and Maintenance meeting. We discussed the levels of bacteria, and it's been steady with a couple of outliners. On November 20th, I attended the EBDA Personnel Committee, in which I'm the chair. We discussed the Brown Act in regards to attending meetings remotely. On November 21st, I attended the EBDA Commission meeting. We went over all our committees and looked into next year's goals. That's my report. Oh, and I also wanted to say that I wanted to mention that I'm doing a toy giveaway with the Optimus Club on December 18th. We're doing it at the toy shop at 6:30, and everybody's welcome between ages 17 and younger. I'm sending it to all the schools, and yeah, we want to get a lot of people, and we're going to have thousands of toys. We're making it big. They can come into the toy shop and pick whatever toy they want, and they'll leave with the toy and be happy. That's it.
Councilmember Regular, please.
Thank you. On October 9th, I attended the 1128th meeting of the Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District. We discussed the replacement of 3 district-owned right-hand Jeeps with leased enterprise fleet management vehicles. We had a presentation by IT Director Robert Ferdinand, why we're about unmaintained swimming pools. We discussed invasive Aedes detections in Santa Clara and Contra Costa counties and locally acquired dengue fever cases in Los Angeles County. November 13th, I attended the 1130th meeting of the Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District meeting. We discussed the appointment of an ad hoc committee to nominate candidates for 2025 board officers, appointment of an ad hoc general energy committee to review and recommend facility and efficiency strategies. And I will be looking forward to attending our December 7th meeting. We have our annual trustee in-person open house, lab dedication to Jan, who passed away and while in his position. We have an aquaculture tour. We have a group photo from 3 to 5. We have an ad hoc salary committee to be appointed at the December meeting in preparation, and 2025 salary negotiations with ACMEN Employee Association. We will also be discussing the strategic plan update at the December meeting, and the Mosquito Vector Control Association of California annual conference is January 27th to 29th at the Oakland City Center Marriott. On November 12th to 17th, I attended the National League of Cities Conference in Tampa. I worked closely with the NLC board and the constituency group, the LGBT Low constituency group, to host Mayor Jane Castor, who presented me with the Amazing Leadership Award for my service as president for the LGBTQ Low constituency group. Mayor Castor came out to speak to our constituency group, and she discussed her leadership as police chief and also as mayor during the life-threatening hurricane, which missed Tampa. But her strong message to get folks to vacate and seek higher land was very effective. And thank you to those folks for attending that discussion. I also attended various meetings. The LGBTQI 46, the Biden-Harris and Queer Political Appointee Group, is having an upcoming retreat at the Human Rights Campaign headquarters on Saturday, December 7th. For roughly 100 to 200 LGBTQI identified political appointees who will soon be heading out to federal government service. This back in 2026, they had a similar gathering for departing LGBTQ identified Obama appointees. So as immediate past president of NLC's LGBTQ caucus, and as a council member, I will be speaking on a panel regarding transitioning from federal service to careers at the state and municipal levels. The name of the session is entitled All Politics is Local. I invite you all to attend. This will be in Washington, D.C. And 4th through 8th is the Victory International Leaders Conference in Washington, D.C. I will be working closely. It's our first conference that I'm hosting in collaboration, National League of Cities in collaboration with the Victory Institute. The International Leaders Conference will be focusing on municipal leader housing, panel discussions on LGBTQ affordable housing, transgender sanctuary cities, and family non-discrimination ordinances. On October 30th to 31st, I attended the Strong Cities Network Conference on preventing hate and building social cohesion amid global crisis, unleashing the potential of cities in Western Canada and Western United States, a Strong Cities North America initiative, and that was in Victoria, Canada. A nonprofit was sponsored the entire trip, and I spoke on a panel titled City-Led Innovations and Solutions, Maintaining Social Cohesion in Times of a Global Crisis, and I had the opportunity to spend time with the mayor, Marianne Alto, who is the first lesbian mayor of Victoria, Canada. And on 11th, on November 20th, I graduated from WELL, Water Education for Latino Leaders, the Untapped Fellowship Program. We celebrated the graduation of its 9th class on Wednesday, the 20th, marking the conclusion of the WELL Untapped Fellowship Summer 2024 cohort. The cohort's 5th and final session was hosted in Sacramento. We had the opportunity to interview Bradley Franklin, research fellow at PPIC Institute, about the history and significance of the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta, and WELL Advisory Council member Anacita Augustines, who is a travel policy advisor for the California Department of Water Resources, who delivered a compelling presentation to the California Travel Water Perspective. Our graduation ceremony honored 10 locally elected officials who spent the past 5 months tackling California's water challenges. This milestone underscores our dedication to elevating local Latino leadership and driving meaningful participation in water policy decisions for our communities. Mark Grossman, who was a spokesperson for the Cesar Chavez Foundation, who was also good friends and his advisor, who was also worked closely with Richard Alatorre, former assembly member who passed away. We both worked under him and his leadership, highlighted the power of organizing during the Untapped graduation dinner, praising the December 2024 cohort's efforts. And on 12/8, the Victory International Leaders Conference in Washington will be focusing on hosting municipal leaders. So there, in addition to all that, that's what I did this past couple of months. So a lot to be said and a lot of work and advocacy.
Okay. I'm going to try to do mine in 1 minute so that we can get out of here. I know we'll be 1 minute late. Is that okay? Okay. Also attended National League of Cities. I'll focus on the follow-up. I've spent a fair amount of time with city manager talking about how we can take some of the lessons that we learned there and bring them specifically to San Leandro. Very excited to attend the Latina Girls poetry reading, public speaking. That was one of the recipients of our arts and culture grants. Very powerful to see these young women step out of their comfort zone and to tell their stories in front of a large audience. The development of youth was just phenomenal. Excited to have attended the Port of Oakland to represent the city of San Leandro at their celebration of all of the electrification of their port equipment. So from the guidance that comes from BACMD, where I sit as a director, filtering down to actual actions at places like the port and the support of the hundreds of millions of dollars that Barbara Lee, in collaboration with BACMD and many other neighborhood groups, came together to deliver cleaner air. And we all know that air flows this way from the port, so that directly impacts San Leandro. Represented the city of San Leandro at Liz Ortega's State of the District and at Barbara Lee's State of the District. Significant celebrations on the good things that are happening within the district. Most excited, I think, about the last two things. The 30th anniversary of the Lavender Seniors was celebrated here in San Leandro at the library. What was really cool about that event, and in addition to just celebrating how welcoming a city that we are, was that many of those people were then at our Thanksgiving feast. And so being able to just say, many of them just saying, thank you for having been present as we helped lift them up for Thanksgiving. So with that, it is 10:40.